But I think the development of full artificial intelligence will spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object, and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody is checking it out.
I don't know if it was a rocket or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. It was too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
He said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help me!
Aliens won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1, 0, 1, 1, 0,
self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness.
Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and hello to all of you who may also have troubled minds. What's going on, guys? It is Monday night, which is one of the nights we get together and talk about all the things we're not allowed to talk about. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific. What are those things, you may wonder? Too much. I'm going to have to sum up. Aliens, conspiracy, the paranormal, the government, academia, the 24-hour news cycle, propaganda, and the general feeling that we live in the upside down. Per usual, we get a doozy for you tonight. Like I said, if you were listening on the pre-show there, yeah, I've been reading a little too much Dungeons and Dragons source books over the weekend, so my head's in a weird space. But you guys are gonna have to forgive me. So hopefully it will actually culminate in something amazing tonight. I'll leave that to you. You be the judge of that, as always. I'll handle my reality, you handle yours, and we'll come together and be as polite as each other in between. So what's going on? I hope everybody's doing well. It is Monday, and like I said, don't worry about Monday. Monday doesn't suck. It's your job that sucks. And yeah, what's up? Mike was listening to metal music over the weekend. Kinda, maybe ish. What's going on, guys? I see you in the chat out there. So as you know, right, this is live. We do this live to include you. This is a, let's say, I like to call this, sometimes conspiracy speculation theater, okay? And what that means is, in a lot of ways, we just sort of like to, at least I like to, sort of just unlock my brain, unlock the baggage of just the real world, lift one foot up, and try and keep one foot in the real world, of course. But in many other terms beyond that, why not? Why not let our mind dream and wander? Those that what does Edgar Allan Poe say? Something to the effect of, those who dream only by night are not cognizant of those who dream by day. Something something to that effect. I butchered it for sure, but right, let us dream while we're awake for a moment, and that's what the show's really about. It's about looking up instead of looking down. It's about considering just the possibilities of all the things that sort of make up not just let's say the multiverse, but the omniverse itself, which of course is a weird place to begin with. So as we go tonight, as you guys know, like I said, we do this live to include you. I don't actually have any inside sources, Galactic Federation ambassadors. I don't have any, I'm not tapped into anything, nothing like that. I don't do magic. Don't worry about that stuff. I don't do any of that, right? I just watch news cycles very closely and try and figure out what the hell's going on in the zeitgeist. And as a result, right, sometimes you get some really bizarre stuff, and it makes me wonder, like, what's actually happening out there in regard to let's say true reality, because of course, as we know, the true reality itself is objective reality, but we're people, and so people aren't really allowed the luxury of an objective reality. It's subjective, it's individual. Our reality is our own. It's very personal to us, and in some cases, we don't share reality with anybody else. For instance, let's just talk politics for a little bit, because I don't want to get into those weeds, but just in general terms. But what about those people that just live and breathe politics? It's like every single damn thing that happens comes across their life, no matter what it is, right? It's got to relate somehow to politics, to this guy or that guy, or this gal or that gal, or who should be voted for or not voted for, who should be cast out or cast down from the mountain, right? Like who. I can't do that. I just can't do that. So that's a reality I just don't share. I reject it entirely. I don't want it. I can't imagine how miserable you would be if you just spent most of your life just bogged down in other people's narratives and just fighting that lefty-righty blue-red battle. My God, like, talk about punching yourself in the face. Don't actually punch yourself in the face. When I say that, I'm just making jokes. But okay, so back to reality. Whatever reality is, okay? That's really the nature of the show. The nature of reality is this show. And it's because there's so many different ways to look at things, and that's what we're doing tonight, as usual, right? So we're going to be talking about the death of gods, something known as Deicide, if you've never heard that term. There's actually a band, by the way, called Deicide, which is actually heavy metal, which is exactly what Matt's saying in the chat. But I was, again, there's a lot of syncs here that sort of kind of lock into this, because, of course, I was reading Dungeons & Dragons over the weekend. That's what led me down some really bizarre, let's say I was reading about aberrations and things that have been created outside of nature. I was reading about the existence of maybe planar gods or demigods, and right, the manual of the planes, you name it, right? Like, I was in some weird spaces, but it was fun as hell, and it sort of actually just unlocks a little bit in your brain. It's sort of like those cheat codes, just considering all the possibilities. So that's what we're doing tonight. So as you know, we're doing this live to include you. Like I said, no Galactic Federation ambassadors, no inside sources, no anything, just me and you. If you want to be part of the show tonight, we are streaming on, of course, Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Twitter, and we are broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. And the number to reach Troubled Minds and me is 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037, and we'll put you on the show. You can also click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. It's the official website that's got all the goods you want in the social media. It's got a link to the store, to troubledfans.com. I'll show you during the break what I'm wearing, a Troubled Fans t-shirt, and it turned out pretty hot. It's a black on black t-shirt. So if there's a lot of ways you can help support the show. We'll talk about that as we go tonight. But okay, so we're streaming in those places, broadcasting on the Fringe FM, Discord link, phone number, we got that covered, troubledminds.org. Okay, and by the way, Fringe is in need of some help, guys. If you can spare a few bucks at fringe.fm/donations, and to keep the Fringe on air, and there you go, as simple as that. I would appreciate whatever you can spare. Let's do it. Let's get to this. All right, so like I said, the manual of the planes, Deicide, the death of gods. All right, so as usual, right, I gotta, you guys realize and understand I've made a lot of really great friends doing this show, with some really great ideas, and just kind of, again, like-minded individuals that kind of like to dream while we're awake about amazing things. So I kicked this out to a small trusted group of individuals, and what do I get? Of course, the mighty Night Stalker. Stalker, Derek in Massachusetts. He's like, oh, Mike, check this out. Speaking of Deicide and the death of gods, there's this thing. Are we getting feedback double lag? Is that for sure? Can somebody confirm or deny that, pretty please? Let me make sure. I don't want the audio to be a disaster. Everything should be fine. Test 1 2. Anybody there? We getting double feedback? Can anybody verify, confirm or deny, please? Nope. Okay, please do that, because all good. Okay, all right, 5 by 5. Okay, thank you. Don't do that. You guys freak me out when you say stuff like that. Okay, all right. So here's Night Stalker says this. He's all, hey Mike, you'll never believe this, but check this out. Yeah, there's this thing, and of course they locked into the zeitgeist. I'm reading some weirdo stuff over the weekend, and it turns out there's a villain. You got it, a villain called Gore the God Butcher. Gore the God Butcher. Okay, all right. And I'm like, ooh, that seems to fit the theme of Deicide tonight, and of course this eternal skirmish of the Pantheons, as we're going to talk about. But okay, so a few questions as we get going, right? So we're going to get to this right now. So okay, here we go. Thor: Love and Thunder is a movie coming up pretty soon. Here, it's coming up this summer, early summer, right? We'll bring back Chris Hemsworth, a titular Asgardian, for another adventure. But it seems that this upcoming film will be dangerous due to Christian Bale's Gore the God Butcher, all right? And, of course, what does that mean? It means a lot of things. We're going to talk about that. What's up? There's the Night Stalker. Gore the God Butcher, right? And I was like, whoa. This is, I was way into comics, when I was quite a bit younger, and I haven't been super into it, but recently, for obvious reasons, a lot of time, a lot of different things, a lot of doing this show instead, But in terms of Sinks and, not really being locked into this, talking about Deicide without the idea of Gore the God Butcher seems like blasphemy at this point. So anyway, here we go. Let's go to Gore the God Butcher real quick. So a few questions before we do that tonight. As always, right, this is the question show. I got some questions for you guys, right? Number one, let's define what do you think a god actually is? And I don't mean let's say the all-powerful creator, right? Let's say that in terms of, let's say, ancient pantheons of gods, you can say whatever you want to. You want to talk about the Egyptians, you want to talk about the Greeks or the Romans or the Norse, the Japanese, whatever, right? There's so many different actual pantheons of gods, right? That are not just, interestingly, sort of geographically located around the world. They're also seem to be, spaced throughout time, right? So different times, different things. And I don't want to I'm not trying to crap on anybody's religion. You guys know me. I'm not trying to do that. So don't think of it that way. I'm not trying to say that if you believe something's real, that it's not. I'm not saying that. I'm saying let's define what these pantheons of gods actually are. Were they titans? Were they demigods? Were they what were these things? Were they partial gods? Were they actual gods? And if so, right, if they are, then is it possible that they can be killed? Because, of course, right, let's say, first off, let's say they're real, all right? And then second, can they be killed? This idea of Deicide, right? Now, of course, if you look back again and you go back to, let's say, Thor, right? Everybody knows Thor. Norse mythology, the god of thunder, right? Thor. Everybody knows Thor, okay? Well, at some point, Thor sort of phased out of, let's say, worship. Thor in the Norse pantheon sort of just phased out of history and became less and less relevant because people stopped worshiping the gods of old, right? So what happens then? What happens to these gods, these dormant gods, right? What happens to them? Is it possible that maybe a different pantheon came through and displaced them, maybe even murdered them and moved on, maybe stole their powers, things like this? I don't know, right? So there's some interesting concepts there. In other terms, too, what about gods again? Apoc's got it right in the chat there. God, metaphors, aliens, old earth beings, multidimensional star beings, maybe all of these things, maybe none of these things, maybe a combination of all of the above, right? And that's what's most fascinating to me about these conversations, is you kind of don't know where this is going to lead us tonight. And I'm always excited when I bring up something a little bit weird, and this one's super weird, what you guys are going to come up with. So that's the question tonight. Number one, how do we define a god in like an ancient pantheon or something like this? Let's try and detach yourself from modern religions, because I don't want to like do that. I don't want to cause a ruckus here and have death threats and piss people off. Not like that, right? But think about it in ancient terms, right? Where did they go? Was it literally just fables? Was it just folklore, as they've said? And what happens when these things phased out, when they moved on? Did people stop believing in them? Did another pantheon come through and murder them? So a few things. Number one, how do we define what a god of an old pantheon is? Again, is that some people may say angels or devils or demons or things like this, celestial beings? Who knows? How do we define this? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Number two, what happened to these ancient pantheons? Even maybe not super ancient, let's say hundreds of years ago. Some of these things are decently actually contemporary. Like if you look at the Aztec gods, the Aztecs were 500-600 years ago, they were a thing, something like that. It's like, it's not really that far back in some of these cases. And do you think there's maybe a water cooler where all the old gods of the old pantheons maybe got together and mingled? Do you think Thor actually met, let's say Teotihuacan at some point? You know what I'm saying? Or do you think they were locked in eternal battle? And that's what I'm talking about tonight. We're dreaming a little bit, dreaming while we're awake, dreaming while we're on the radio, and dreaming while we're talking to you. So a couple questions, right, regarding that. And then the third question, is it possible, after we've defined what the gods are, is it possible to kill them? Is that possible? And we got some stuff for the Night Stalker tonight as well. Hang tight. I got some wild stuff that I don't know if you've seen this yet, but we're going to get to Cthulhu tonight as well. Okay, so that's where I'm at. All right, that's where I'm at. That's where my head's at. Reading a little too much Dungeons and Dragons this weekend, but that's okay because sometimes it spits out an amazing show on the other end. Okay, so that's what's going on. One more time: 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show to read all the chat, doing our thing, talking about Deicide, talking about, is it possible? Is it actually possible to kill the gods themselves? And of course, if you look at Dungeons and Dragons, which I was reading over the weekend, the answer is, of course, maybe. It depends on your dungeon master, right? The actual, let's say, creator, the creator of the universe, which in a Dungeons and Dragons Pocket Universe case, that would be your dungeon master. So of course, the answer is maybe, all right, in those terms. But I don't care about the maybes. I care about what you guys think. There you go. Night Stalker says, when the squids take over, the humans will be the old gods. And maybe that's true. All right, so let's go to Gore here. Gore the God Butcher. Again, shout out to Derek the Night Stalker for pointing this out. I had no idea. This is one of those ones I missed. Listen to this. A creature of deadly reckoning, Gore the God Butcher vows to kill all deities across the cosmos. A crusade that spans a millennia. And it's all in the news. You type God Butcher, God Killer in the news, and you get this guy. You get Gore the God Butcher from Marvel Comics. Let's read you his backstory. A little bit of spoilers here for maybe if they fill in his backstory in this movie coming up. So if you're like freaking out, maybe dip out until the bottom of the hour break. But here we go. Listen to this. This is pretty wild, right? Here we go. Gore the God Butcher. This is straight from the Marvel website. Raised by his mother and father on a planet without a name, young Gore learns of the gods, who they must pay homage to in order to keep the family safe. Gore, possessing a crippled leg and an inquisitive demeanor, questions his mother about the gods, why he can't see them, and why they didn't take care of his father when he fell ill with the sun fevers. His mother reassures him that his father lived a long life and that they'll see him again someday. Soon after, she dies, saving him from a pair of dinosaur-like beasts. And of course, this is on a different, okay, the movies mix it up from the comics. Okay, good. No spoilers here. All right. So soon after, she dies, saving him from a pair of dinosaur-like beasts. And again, this is on a planet without a name, somewhere a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, if you catch me. Years later, he has sons and daughters with his partner, Ara, but she perishes while pregnant in an earthquake. Most of his children are taken by the same illness as his father. With only one son left, Agar, Gore treks with him and his tribe away from their barren wasteland, seeking a more resourceful area of the planet. However, his son did not survive the journey. Gore loses all faith in the gods, committing blasphemous acts such as burying his son underground, a practice forbidden by his culture, and saying there are no gods to take care of them. His tribe stoned him so that the gods couldn't hear his lies, saying he was of the black gods, and his crippled leg was a sign. All right, there you go. That's how we start. Gore the God Butcher, that's the beginning of his story. We'll weave that in as we go tonight, because I think it's actually important, because this idea of killing the gods is actually entering back into the zeitgeist. I don't know if it ever was in, let's say, my lifetime, but right now we're talking about these Marvel movies. The Marvel Cinematic Universe are bringing things in like the multiverse of madness, right? They're bringing in ideas like, well, Thanos and the Infinity Stones and snapping your finger and overpopulation of the multiverse, right? I mean, there's some interesting things that are coming into the zeitgeist just in regard to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But this right here seems to take it to another level. If you have this Gore the God Butcher, it feeds right into what I was thinking over the weekend, right? What is a god? Is it possible to actually kill one? And that's the question, right? So that movie's introducing the Olympians too. I saw that. So it's going to be Zeus as well, right? So we're going to get Zeus played by Russell Crowe, and we're also going to get, of course, Thor. Thor. What's up, Tam Bam? That's right. You're Thor. You're Thor. What's going on, guys? So that's what's on my mind tonight, right? So again, please decouple this from. I'm not talking about. Let's talk about ancient religions and ancient pantheons. I don't want to piss anybody off and ask about, sort of Fight Club with Jesus or something like this. That's not what I'm talking about. Please don't take it that way. But what do you think? How do we define the ancient gods? Were they celestial beings? Were they aliens? We can do that as well, because this is Troubled Minds after all. But what do you think they were? Do you think it was sort of demigod? Do you think they were titans? Do you think they were whatever the heck it is they were? I'm not exactly sure, right? And so I think if we have this idea of maybe warring pantheons of the gods of old, it makes me think of a lot of things. It makes me think of celestial beings. It makes me think of the multiverse or portals or different dimensions, things like this, right? So that's one thing. You know what it also makes me think of, by the way? We've talked about this sort of in the periphery in the past. It makes me think of Stargate, SG-1, Stargate Atlantis, right? Where they have the Goa'uld, if you guys are familiar with this, right? The ancient Egyptian pantheons are actually part of a extraterrestrial symbiotic race that's trying to take over the galaxy, right? And that would be the Egyptian pantheon, all right? But then in the same series, which I think is fantastic, I think SG-1 and Stargate, the series, is very well done. Again, get past the first 8 episodes in the first season, because they're super corny, but after that it gets pretty good. But so then they are actually eternally at war with the Asgard, all right? And the Asgard in the Stargate universe is, of course, like the gray aliens. So we have two actual different, let's say, alien races in the Stargate series combating each other through thousands of years. We're talking about since the times of the pyramids being built, right? And even probably before that. And then they've taken sort of this guise as gods to humans. And the Asgard, of course, Thor, Freya, and they take on the names of these ancient, let's say, Norse gods. But then on the other hand, you're talking about SG-1 and Stargate and the Goa'uld, who are the bad guys, the alien symbiotes trying to galactic domination, right? They actually take on the names like Apophis, Isis, right? Osiris, Ra, right? Set. So it is interesting that if something like this has been going on, sort of framing it in an alien sense doesn't seem too ridiculous, at least not too ridiculous for me, because this is Troubled Minds after all. So there we go. I think that sums it up. That's what's on my mind tonight. A little bit all over the place, but I think overall, it's a fascinating thought. How do you define what a god is? If you can a god be killed? We're going to put that to the test tonight with, of course, Gore the God Butcher from the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the comics, and, of course, Pantheons of Old. What are your thoughts? 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. More Deicide, the death of the gods, and the eternal skirmish of the Pantheons. When we return, be right back. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we are streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Twitter. And we are broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. Tonight, we're talking about the idea of deicide, the death of the gods. Number one, how do we define a god? And number two, is it possible to kill one or many? Love to hear your thoughts at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. We'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. I know it's a little bit like out there. Come on, Mike. Come on, Mike. More weird stuff from Mike. Are you kidding me? Well, hey, that's what we do. It's what we do here. So that's what's on my mind. The eternal skirmish of the Pantheons. The Pantheons of the old gods, where did they go? Did they just vanish? Because as Tam Bam actually mentioned over there on Rockfin, is it possible that you can kill them by forgetting about them? By stopping the worship of the Pantheon? Do they fade away? Do they change their name? Do they try and fool mortals to, let's say, stay relevant? All kinds of good ideas here. And, of course, how would you kill the god? One more time, 702-957-1037. And let's go to, I'm not exactly sure who this is. Let's see. Looks like this might be Matt in Colorado. Am I right?
Yeah, Matt in Colorado again.
Yes. What's up, Matt? How are you? Welcome to Troubled Minds. Go right ahead.
Well, I'm doing really well. So I wanted to go through your three different questions. And also, remember, last time I was on, I offered people, your listeners, a free copy of my book with the coupon code. So I got that set up today.
Okay, fantastic. I appreciate that.
All right. So, we'll do that at the end or whatever.
Sure.
Or I can call back in later. So the Pantheons of the gods, what are they? I think there's kind of two different questions. I like to maybe separate the gods from the demigods, okay? And the reason I like to do that is because I think there's a lot of different people, a lot of different sources, a lot of different information that the demigods, whether you want to go to the Bible and the Elohim and the sons of God marrying the daughters of man, and I'm not a person that's usually referencing the Bible, okay? But I think that there might be some legitimacy to, there were these gods, and something, whether they were alien hybrids, might be a possibility, and there were demigods. And it's interesting, I was listening to a podcast with a guy that was a Hebrew scholar, and he was talking about the Elohim, and he was talking about basically that concept of them extraterrestrials, or what they might consider gods, interbreeding and creating these demigods. So they were more physical, more like, humans, or the giants, or the Nephilim, or etc., and that they ruled different of the lands and civilizations, and etc. So who were they? Okay, so if you think about the difference between gods versus demigods, so the gods would be the Elohim, the beings from interdimensional systems, the beings that, some people might call extraterrestrials, etc. But the demigods were more a crossbreed between those and something else. And then these skipping to your third question, can you kill them? Well, those guys, yeah, you could kill them, because they were physical. They were incarnated. They were physical. They had supernatural abilities. They had certain gifts, and but they were more physical. They were interdimensional beings. So those guys could be killed. So what I'm saying is you can kill a demigod, which is interesting you mentioned Dungeons and Dragons, because when I was, 16, 17 years old, I was a dungeon master. And we talked before, I'm a little bit older than you, but not by much. And I was a dungeon master, and we had like 3 different books, and the Book of the Monsters, and the third book, had brought in the gods and the demigods, and you had to be a really high-level player to be able to kill those guys. And so you had to be like level 30 or something.
Not even that. Like have an entire group of level 30s, and you had to get super lucky. Like it was still incredibly difficult. But yeah, I get you. Right.
So could they be killed? Yeah. Now this guy that I listened to this podcast on, that like I said, he was a Jewish scholar. And I'm sorry I can't, for your listeners' benefit, recall his name. But he was talking about, like the story of Samson and Goliath and all these things, that these guys were basically demigods. They were, whether you want to call them extraterrestrial hybrids, and they had battles with these guys. So, if you take it from that perspective, Goliath was a demigod, and he got killed. And there was a lot of these other ones that ruled different territories and different places, and yeah, they could be killed. Yeah, they did die, and people did rituals and things like that to pay homage to them, and which ties into one of the other points that you were talking about, which is, if we don't believe in them anymore, what happens to them? Or, does the cessation of belief in these beings lead to them disappearing? Or if people, another more interesting question, if people start believing in them again, does it bring them back into existence? Or can they come back in other forms, or can they come back in other names? And I mean, if they're a being, if they're a interdimensional being, or some level of soul or spirit, then yeah, they're not going to be totally extinguished. Maybe their physical body or incarnation is going to be extinguished, but can they come back again? Can they come back in whatever forms, or influence people's minds, or if people meditate on them or telepathically communicate with them, or different people do rituals to try and summon them? Can they reappear? So that's a really interesting question, and I would say, yeah. I would say, probably. So I think in terms of the 3 questions, number one, who were the gods? Well, first you have the original gods, which are interdimensional beings. And the second of all, then you have the demigods, which are somewhere in between the interdimensional beings and the third dimensional beings that could actually be, like flesh and blood, but more powerful, right? Okay. And then the second question, what happened to them? Well, some of them probably did get killed, and some of them may, actually still be around, being resummoned, be able to be contacted telepathically, things like that.
Yeah,
so that's the 3 questions you asked.
I appreciate it. Look,
those are my...
very good stuff. Look, and I like that you brought up the fact that if, let's say, if we stop remembering them, if we stop worshiping them, or even thinking about them, they're like a tulpa. They are actual thought forms that we create ourselves, right, in some capacity, or, right, is like a divine being drawing power from prayer or belief, right? And without it, they become nothing, or literally fade off into the galaxy, like, I don't know, like trapped in some stasis or something until they're reawoken. And what that means is, if people start believing in them again, or at least the name is on the lips of mortals one more time, does it wake them up and do they come back? And a perfect example of that is we're talking about Thor. Thor is in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and Thor is the Norse god of thunder, okay? However, people haven't believed in Thor in forever, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, okay? But now the name Thor, the god of thunder, is on the lips of millions of people, maybe hundreds of millions across the world, because of the Marvel comics and the cinematic universe. So the question is, does it somehow, some way resurrect that thought form and bring it back? We talked about this in terms of not just like, do we create these things, these demons or these ancient, whatever they are, these powers, and they come back because we give them, let's say, the power they need to come back. In terms of, let's say, Slender Man, something like that, right? It's a modern phenomenon, a fan fiction on the internet, but a lot of people learned about it and thought about it, and then there was this one girl that tried to murder her friends, or two girls tried to murder their friend for Slender Man. So, right, this becomes complicated, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I think that, you know, there's an interesting thing. You could kind of equate this to like when somebody's passed away. Okay, so they're a family member, they're a discarnate spirit, etc. And perhaps it seems like for a certain amount of time they're around the planet, they're around their loved ones, they spend whatever, a couple weeks, 6 months, etc. They visit you in your dreams, and then they depart. They go away. They're off on their own next experience. But if people think about them, if people recall them, if people look at their pictures, etc., does it kind of bring them back again? And I have a brother who passed away, and I've, you know, experienced this myself. And for me, what I experienced was, for a certain amount of time, it seemed like his spirit was around, if you know what I mean. It was, he would visit me, he would be in dreams, etc., and then it seemed like he became more distant and more distant. And then I would have dreams where I had one particular dream where it was like a cell phone call. Like I literally had a cell phone in my hand in the dream, and I could only hear him, but I couldn't see him anymore because he was further away. He was off in other dimensions and other universes, and he was having this experience, and the same sort of thing could happen with the demigods and pantheons, and that, okay, it was like, you know, I was here, I did my thing, you know, I'm gone from Earth now, and nobody's thinking about me, nobody's remembering me, nobody's paying attention to me, nobody's uttering my name, okay, and so they're gone, they're distant, but then the question is, can people call them back? Can people say Thor, 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 and pay attention to them again? And does that draw their attention? Does that bring them back again and make them come about us? And I don't think they like. I don't agree with the concept that they disappear and don't exist, and we only recreate them because of the power of our minds. I think that it's more like, oh no, they exist, they're just really far away. And what happens is, if we pay attention to them again, and I think Ra, you know, from Egypt, is a good example of that, the sun god from Egypt. And I think that what happens is, if we remember them, and we say their names, and there's power in the sound, and there's power in the spoken word, that what happens is it attracts their attention. It attracts their attention, and they come they visit again. It's not like they disappeared. It's not like they died. It's not like we're recreating them. That's my opinion.
Okay, fair enough.
What happens is we attract their attention.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I love it. I got some more stuff to get into as always, right? You know me. So let's do your book thing real quick. Do you got a coupon code or something for us? Again, Matt here in Colorado, good friend of the show's now. I've been calling in recently. I appreciate your takes very much. You're very smart and on the game. And I'm super impressed, as is APOC in the chat, that you got a dungeon master's mind and you're like, D&D, let's talk that. I love it. But you got a book. What's the book called? And you said you were going to give a copy to everybody who's listening.
Right. So the book is called Escape the Matrix and Explore Reality, a transformational guide to radical transformation and self-empowerment. I know it's a long subtitle. So Escape the Matrix and Explore Reality, a guide to radical transformation and self-empowerment. And you find it on Smashwords. So that's smashwords.com. So SMASH words.com. And the coupon code, just for you and your listeners to get it for free, is WY, like Wyoming abbreviation, and then the numbers 78, and then Y. And I wanted to make it just like Mike or something, but they assign you a random code. So Escape the Matrix and Explore Reality on Smashwords. The coupon code is WY78Y.
Got it. WY78Y, Smashwords, Escape the Reality, Escape the Matrix, Explore Reality. I got it. I will paste that in the chat and also drop it in our Discord, and I'll get the links out as well. I'll search them over the break here and then make sure everybody has the exact links to find this stuff. I appreciate it, man. I'm glad you found us because you seem to be in the right place with some open-minded thinking, but some esoteric sort of backing it up. I love it, man. And you're a dungeon master at heart. It's hard to hate that. I appreciate the phone call, my friend. You're the best.
Hey, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, and thanks for having me on the show. And I appreciate everything that you're doing to help people think and explore and question and learn.
Amen, brother. Amen, brother. Thanks again for the book. I will be into that as soon as possible, and I'll drop the links as soon as I can. Appreciate the phone call. That's Matt in Colorado. Have a fantastic night. Thanks for the call.
Bye.
There you go. Easy as that, right? He's not an easy call to follow, actually. Smart guy, as you can tell. I'll get that again one more time. I typed down his the code and everything, so I'll pull it up during the break and I'll share it in the chat. But he's got a book he's written. It's like 1,700 pages, I think he said. It's like super big book. He says he was thinking about breaking it up into 4 volumes. It was so much stuff, but hasn't got around to it. So we'll be able to share that in just a sec. Thanks again to Matt in Colorado for sharing that with us. And there you go. Tam Bam says, "Oh, thanks, Matt. Can't wait to read it." And there you go. That's one way to do it, right? So just share the knowledge. All right. So what do you guys think, right? Great takes there from Matt in Colorado. What do you think? We're talking about the pantheons of the gods, right? I like how he broke it down. He said, look, there's a difference between a god and a demigod, right? Well, what about what Night Stalker said? What about the elder gods? What happens when you start to iron some wrinkles into this or uniron some wrinkles? I don't even know. But okay, so that's the idea tonight. I was again reading a little too much Dungeons and Dragons over the weekend, thinking about all kinds of crazy stuff because those books are absolutely amazing. But it got me thinking in terms of Deicide, the death of gods. And this is a concept we talked about, probably kicked around weeks ago in some other shows. And we were kind of flirting with the idea a little bit here or there. But it kind of came to fruition over the weekend just because I was reading so much of this D&D stuff. And I was like, yeah, this is sweet. I love it, right? And so I was like, okay, let's do it. So I did it. That was the thing I picked because I was top of my mind, and we've talked about it in the past, just briefly. And here we are. But then also, Night Stalker says, Night Stalker in the Discord says that literally 15 minutes before the show started tonight, what did they do? The Marvel Cinematic Universe dropped the trailer. That's right. Introducing Gore the God Butcher. All right. Let's get us back to Gore the God Butcher real quick and read a little bit more of his tale. All right. So remember, he was shunned from his own society on his own planet a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. He had the worst luck of all luck, wondering why the gods didn't protect him, his family, his father, his wife, his kids. He lost them all. His mother, right? Like lost them all to circumstance and earthquakes and the monsters and all kinds of stuff. And he's like, where are the gods? Like they're supposed to be helping us. This is BS, right? This is Gore the God Butcher. Check this out. Now, this is where it starts to get crazy. Again, from the Marvel Universe. Not the cinematic universe, but this is from the Marvel Universe. What made Gore the God Butcher? While walking alone through the deserts, a pair of armored beings hurtle across the sky and land in an explosion on the ground nearby. Gore approaches these unknown beings to find the Gilded One had stabbed the inky black opponent. When the gold god asks for help, Gore refuses, viewing the beings as gods and thus blaming them for his suffering. Just then, this is where it gets super weird, an ooze-like substance shot up into Gore's hand from the blade of the black-armored god and formed into a spearhead, as if forged into volcanic glass. With it, he butchered the remaining living god. With a mere thought, the spearhead turned once again into ooze, covering Gore's body in armor with wings. As he flew away from his planet and into outer space, he wondered if there were more gods out there to find. And there you go. There you go. Why not, right? Why not? Hey, I had no idea. Literally, I had no idea this was a thing. I was just dipped it in before we started tonight. I'm like, I'm doing this. We're going to talk about this. Night Stalker's like, dude, this is the thing. This is a thing. And apparently this is the thing. And there we go. So we've got the original symbiote, all right? The original, the mother of all, the void itself, right? And manifests as on the blade of this dark god that is dead, right? These two gods fall next to him, explode on the ground in this mortal combat, locked to the death. The dark god is killed, and the other god is begging for help because nearly dead. And Gore the God Butcher says, "Nope, I'm done with gods." And then the original black, let's say the black ink of the abyss, becomes the original symbiote and jumps up onto him, and he becomes Venom on steroids, a godlike steroids, because it's not like a Venom type symbiote from the Marvel Cinematic Universe or the Marvel Universe itself, but it becomes a, let's say, what would you describe it as? A super symbiote, because it was the first. So what does Gore do? He spends eternity, as far as, well, the story as we're aware, hunting and murdering gods. And of course that brings us back to what we're talking about, Deicide, the death of gods. Is it possible? What happens when it goes down? What about the skirmish of these pantheons? What happens when they fade away like the Egyptian gods themselves? Ra, the sun god, right? Hathor in the portals. What's up? Shout out to APOC. What's going on with this? Why were they gods at one time and now they're a footnote in history? What changed? Did something come in and remove them? Something replace them? Something actually kill them? Or is this, come on, Mike, this is just BS and they're old stories? You tell me. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And of course, right, there's a lot to this in terms of, well, what happens when, again, the death of gods, what happens when we stop remembering them? We stop worshiping them. Again, Coco, you guys remember that animated series, animated movie, where the idea was that a spirit remains in existence until everybody that ever knew them or remembers them stops, and then they vanish forever. Is that what's going on with these old pantheons? Or are they locked in some sort of eternal war Love to hear your thoughts again. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. More after the break. Be right back. We are talking about the alien abduction phenomenon.
The aliens are looking through your eyes and they're accessing your optic nerve. I'm doing fantastic. And through that optic nerve, they're transferring to your brain. People are going random images as they traverse neurons in your brain.
All right, so maybe,
and they also feel them planting or receiving memories or ideas or images.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness.
Yo ho, yo ho. Welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and hello to all of you who may also have troubled minds. What's going on, guys? It's Monday night. It's one of the nights we get together and talk about all the things we're not allowed to talk about. You know what those things are. We do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific, and those things are aliens, conspiracy, the paranormal, the government, academia, the 24-hour news cycle, propaganda, and the general feeling that we live in the upside down. Tonight, we're talking about the idea of killing gods. That's right. I don't want to start any blasphemous rumors here, but, well, sometimes you can't help yourself. I was reading a whole lot of Dungeons and Dragons over the weekend, and it got my mind working in mysterious ways. And here we are, because why not, right? It got me thinking in terms of this, in terms of, the idea that, old pantheons of the old gods seem to come and go throughout time, throughout geographic areas, and, what does that mean? Were they actually, let's say, killed off? Were they forgotten and they faded away? There was something else happened with this, and I think it's a fascinating idea defining what an actual god is. And Matt in Colorado, fantastic dude, good friend of the show, appreciate you very much, had a great way to define this, right? He said, hey, look, I think probably the gods were, as they were. There were some sort of alien something or other race. The Anunnaki were said to be gods, and the demigods were created as maybe hybrid somethings, whether that's humans or not, or something else, right? It's important to define the two. But then also, can you kill them? And he said, yep. Absolutely, right? Not sure about the gods. And then, of course, Derek, of course, in the chat, Derek Brilliant has always brought up, well, what about the elder gods? And we're going to get to that tonight as well, because it is Troubled Minds after all. Before we do all that, we got Derek on the line. Hang tight, my friend. We'll get right to you. We're streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Twitter. And, of course, we're broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. We're taking your phone calls. What do you think? Is it possible to kill a god? How do you define a god? What about these pantheons of old? Are they just old stories, Mike, or are they something else? Do you think that there's something to this? Does one pantheon displace another through war or other means? Or do they sort of adopt them and just take on their new names sort of situation? Lots of people have suggested that throughout history, but I'm not sure what to think, and I think that's why this is a pretty fun conversation. But then we also enter into the actual conspiracy here. The zeitgeist is this individual by the name of Gore the God Butcher, which we'll get to in just a sec with Derek, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Real quick, so we're streaming on all those places. Click the Discord link, troubleminds.org, 702-957-1037. Also, the Fringe needs your help. please, if you can spare a little bit of scratch, fringe.fm/donations. Keep the Fringe on air. If you appreciate the work I do, the programming of all the rest of the Fringe as well, it's appreciate it very much. Looking for just a little bit of help, and it should be one of the last times, as Joe has said. He's working on just changing the business model to something more sustainable long term, so we don't have to lean on the listeners so much. So if you can spare it, and you do appreciate all the work that all of us do collectively, lots of great programming on the Fringe. Please, fringe.fm/donations. All right. Let's do it. We're doing the thing. We're talking the thing. Let's go to Derek in Massachusetts. What's up, my friend? Welcome to Troubled Minds. How are you tonight?
Hey, Mike. Great show.
I appreciate it, man. This is weird, isn't it? We got some the synchro mystic of Troubled Minds, Derek here. There's some weird things going on, isn't there?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's great. So I haven't actually watched the trailer yet, but so you announced, or you like threw the show idea at us a few hours ago, and we're like, oh yeah, like Gore the God Butcher, like yada yada, and then just on a whim, I searched it probably 10 minutes ago, and I realized that at like 15 minutes or 14 minutes before the show began, they dropped their trailer saying unveiling Gore the God Butcher. There was some post earlier in the day being like, the next Thor trailer is going to show Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher, and I was like, oh, that could be a month from now, that could be who knows when, and it ends up being 15 minutes before your show about butchering gods, the death of gods. It's pretty crazy, right? That's some secret mysticism if I've ever seen some.
Yeah, right. And so we did talk about this idea, you and I, and some other folks in Troubled Minds, the Discord server. I don't know, probably weeks ago, maybe a couple months even. Sort of the idea of Deicide, the death of gods, right? Just that sort of notion of a show. And you said back then, you're like, yeah, do it, right? And then so it kind of reading some weird D&D stuff over the weekend, as you know, and then it turned into this. I was like, this makes the most sense to me for kind of a compelling conversation, like a fun, this type of thing. And then, I had no idea. I am completely ignorant of Gore the God Butcher until you brought it up. And I was like, wait, what?
I mean, a big shout out to Big Y Music too in the chat. He was talking to me last night about Moon Knight and Khonshu, and like I'm going to butcher what he's talking about. So if he's listening, you should call him later on. But he was saying how, like, in the real mythology, there's a relationship between Khonshu and Thoth, like the Emerald Tablets and everything, and how at some point Khonshu was known as the devourer of gods, and he made the comparison to Gore the God Butcher, and that was like 24 hours ago. And here we are talking about Gore the God Butcher on the show. So shout out Big Y, Synchro Mystics on his own right,
Yeah, right.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah, something, man. Like something's out there for sure.
So Gore the God Butcher. So this is a relatively recent story. I think it's from like 2015. So they're really like writing these comics and making these movies pretty quickly now. But basically, like you described, it's this guy from another planet who is just having a terrible time. His entire planet, they don't question the idea of the gods. Nobody even considers the fact that maybe these gods aren't actually real, but their actual living conditions, their world is terrible. So he comes to the conclusion. He's like, well, either these gods aren't real because our life is so bad and we're begging for help, or they're real and they're terrible because they can help us. They could just send down one rainstorm and help us out for an entire month, but they choose to do nothing. So he snaps and decides to go out and kill these gods, basically. And he gets that the black necro sword, this like black goo sword, basically from Null, the symbiote god, the black goo god, basically, who in the Venom mythology, he's brought back like a few years ago. They pretty much just invented him a few years ago. This is all kind of like retconning it, sort of comic style. But he doesn't actually die either. He's like trapped. I think he's like imprisoned by like his other symbiotes that he creates. He's like trapped in this basically black goo, like Tartarus prison type deal. But in this Gore the God Butcher type like the Gore the God Butcher story, this is the first time Marvel kind of gets into the idea of how these gods work on other planets and how they kind of work within the Marvel universe. Because you have like celestial beings, you have Thanos calls himself a god, you have Loki, you have like aliens, you have god forms, you have like Hercules and Zeus and everything exists in the Marvel universe. And so and then within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as a esoteric fan, I'm really interested to see how they're going to handle this, because when they started the MCU, they introduced the Asgardians as just aliens, which isn't the way they are in the comics. They're like basically you guys can't handle. You guys are just getting used to superheroes and comic storytelling. We're not ready to toss out, bring actual pantheons of gods into these stories yet. So just to make it simple, science and magic is the same thing. These gods are just aliens. Like it's just all alien stuff. Don't worry about it. But in reality, there's in the comics, there's 9 realms. There's all kinds of complex stuff going on. And then a couple weeks ago, last month or whatever, they bring in the Egyptian Ennead, or the Egyptian pantheon of gods, and they're acting in some other realm they call in the comics the Celestial Heliopolis, but in the show they call the Overvoid. I'm not sure which is cooler, but so they're kind of they're like channeling these like different people in high political power or whatever, different of influence, are channeling these gods or these interdimensional entities from another realm. So we never actually see them. And now they're introducing in Thor: Love and Thunder the Greek pantheon of gods. So are there going to be another? So this is going to be a movie about Thor, who's an Asgardian, who's in the Marvel universe, is supposed to be an alien, introducing another pantheon of gods. Are they going to be aliens too? Are they going to? Who knows? It gets kind of murky, you know. So, but in the comics, they kind of explain it. This is written by Jason Aaron, who's a pretty great writer. He has a lot of really cool stories. That each planet kind of has their own Asgardians and Greek gods and all kind of stuff that based on human belief. So basically, there's like a demiurge who kind of creates Gaia and all kind of stuff, and from Gaia and from like from humanity, the collective worship of humanity kind of births these entities, like gives them power, more or less, and then which resonates with me. Like I'm not sure if we have time to get into the whole thing, but this is something I've been kind of talking about for the last few months now. The idea of, and I use like the Dark Side of the Moon album cover as kind of a comparison, but just kind of real quick. If we imagine, like, we talk about the power of the human mind and like tulpas and thought forms, and in the Cthulhu show we brought it up a lot about maybe Cthulhu or these old gods, these old ones are trying to reform themselves into our reality via the human mind by all these stories like throughout time and stuff. They're trying to birth themselves in the collective. So what if that's how it works? Like, what if that's the role of humans? So just kind of picture this, and I'm going to try not to butcher this, but just kind of go with me here. So imagine we have like source or like consciousness, or like in the Dark Side of the Moon cover would be the white light coming in, and that's like all the information. That's like the matrix code. That's like the source. That's everything. And then it's being shot through, or there could be just like archetypes, just base, like essence, energy, whatever. And then so we have the prisms, which is the triangle on the album cover. And that's human, so that's whatever subjective thing reality is being filtered through. And then you have the multicolored thing on the rainbow on the album cover, which is the reality that each one of those prisms experiences. So I believe, under this idea, we have that source coming in, and then each culture and each person, each group is kind of, it's too much for us to handle. It's the idea of the gods or angels, or these celestial ideas being too much for us to grasp. These Lovecraftian beings being too much for us to handle. So we try to we try to make sense of it using our 5 senses in our mind and the ideas we have. So if you're in South America, if you're in Asia, if you're in North America, if you're in Europe, you have different animals, you have different weather, you have all different kinds of stuff that this information is going to be filtered through. So your stories are going to be slightly different, your gods are going to be slightly different. That's why I believe you can kind of make comparisons between, this is talking about this god represents the sun, this god represents the sun. That's comparative mythology and all that kind of stuff. So that's the idea of, maybe they're talking about something different, or that's how the ancient aliens people theorize. They're talking about an actual being, and they're all giving it different names. And I'm just like, what if it's just different cultures interpreting that source information? So then we have like the Egyptian gods, the Greek gods, the gods of Asia, yada yada, all these kind of pantheons. But then through our belief, through the power of the human mind, that all kind of bubbles up, and that collective thought energy kind of actually creates these entities, these actual beings. So while they all represent some type of base energy, some type of primal, like universal constant energy, then they actually take shape. And that's what Gore the God Butcher, the story says, that's happening on every planet in the entire universe. So every planet that has human life on it, or has some type of life on it, some type of reality filtering conduits that is the human mind, or a mind, then they have these pantheons. And then Gore just goes around, pops around, and wipes them all out. So I mentioned this to Axel a few weeks ago. His question was like, or his like first thing he said was, well, under that idea, if you kill them, don't they just like pop up again? Because it's just based on human belief. If people believe them, isn't it kind of useless? Like, won't they just be birthed again? And I didn't have a good answer for him. I don't know, but I'm talking too much. What do you think about that, Mike?
No, you're good. You're spot on here. No, perfect. I think there's a lot to consider because, of course, right? I do like the idea of the prism, right? So it's like the source, whatever that source information is. Let's say that matrix code, like you described, from wherever the hell it's coming from. It filters through us. We interpret it as, again, like Matt says here, he just said it perfectly. The gods are a mystery to be explored by each individual. But you have cultural stuff too, right? Because, of course, you have holy people and you have the clergy and all the rest of this that interpret it for you and give you the prepackaged, the god looks like this and, the god is that and, all the things, right? So if this is the case and it's just like a interpretation situation, it doesn't mean that they don't necessarily exist. It just means we're, again, at different time, different place, naming them other things. I love all that. But still, if they're out there somewhere, can they die? And this Gore the God Butcher, like, I'm a little too old for this, which is why I missed the entire story arc of this until you brought it up tonight. I was like, whoa, what? Really? This guy's going to be not only that, he's going to be in the movie this summer. Like, it's happening this summer, right? Like this is nuts.
Soon, this summer, like July, I think. So that these things represent forces that can't die, but they themselves could possibly be killed. Like can somebody kill the Slender Man if it's birthed from the human mind and it's what if it gets to a point where it's walking around killing people? Can anybody fight that, or is it some type of, I don't know? Can it be killed and then will it just pop up again? Who really knows? But I don't know. So they are immortal. I'm not sure how the story is going to address it. Honestly, I'm not sure. I forget how the Marvel Universe kind of addresses it. If they handle that aspect of the story, but that's kind of just one aspect of gods. That's kind of just one sphere of these pantheons and how one could be crushed. But also in the story, as these there's deaths of gods or different pantheons on just Earth. So the Demiurge creates Gaia and the sky god and all that kind of stuff, and that births Chthon and the elder things in the Marvel Universe. And then the first race of new gods or something like that pops up, and that's the Egyptian gods and stuff. And they start wiping out all the elder gods. They start trying to they're going around and killing the elder gods. So in order to escape them, Dormammu and Chthon and stuff, they escape to their own little pocket dimensions, their own little pocket realms, and that's them trying to influence our reality again. So they escape. So, which makes you think a lot of the times these gods can't be killed like that. They have to be trapped. They have to be imprisoned, and that's the idea of trapping something in stone, or trapping Kronos and Tartarus, or trapping this person in a mystical object, not to be set free, or you had the show when that rock with the nine tails demon got out a few months ago. And this idea of these trapping these entities and stuff. But I'm talking too much. But I wanted to get into just that's just one type of god again. And there's like I said earlier in the chat, if we die and then the octopus take over or the beetles take over or something like that, they might find our stuff, the evidence of us, and consider us to be there's an old golden age of gods where humans had this crazy technology and all kinds of stuff, and we're considered to be gods. Or then there's also the ancient aliens type thing, where just some other advanced race could be considered to be godlike that comes in, and they're definitely killable. If ancient alien style, even with the cargo cults and the idea of people in the West dropping things to Aboriginal tribes and being considered gods. They believe there's a tribe that thinks Prince Philip is a god. So there's many types of gods, and then my favorite types of gods is the old gods. You know,
yes.
and it's these like
the old
these
ones.
these primal old things that there is no killing them. They're either considered to be sleeping like Cthulhu or cast out of our reality somehow, but they're not. They exist even before the human mind. So they're things that there's at the different. It's not what I'm talking about with the idea of the filtering reality and creating these things from that. Those are lesser beings than these old ones. You know, these old ones exist before the human mind existed. So they're these like primal forces that are, yeah. Sorry, I'm talking too much.
No, you're fine. No, no, you're perfect. Hey, remember, one man's garbage is another man's treasure.
I know. I'm talking too much. I know.
You're perfect, bro. You're perfect. No, this is the thing too. This is the craziest part. I was thinking about this tonight, and I was like, okay, so like a perfect. I'm glad Matt called in Colorado because he literally lined it up. He's like, okay, look, if we're talking about gods, there's got to be demigods. Like we talked about titans and all the rest of this stuff too, right?
Yeah.
But what about the elder gods? What about, like I said this a couple nights ago, and I should have said this when I was on James's show on Friday the 13th as well. What I was kind of getting at is like it, you know, I said then, look, I don't believe in ghosts, right? I said that, and I don't. Yeah. But as an addendum to that thought, it doesn't matter what I believe. If ghosts are real, ghosts are real. They don't need me to believe them. You know what I mean? In some sense, the universe does what the universe does, right? And in those terms, if we're talking about the greatest of old ones, the primordial gods of, let's say, the early universe, or even the multiverse in some sense, right? I started looking into Cthulhu. And not only that, right, we're talking about the idea of a tulpa, a thought form of gods maybe die if you stop believing in them. Or let's say, you know, like you said with Axel, and this is fascinating. If a god dies, if people believe in them, they just pop right back up, right? So it makes them in the moment immortal. But if they continually die over and over and over again to, let's say, outside forces or whatnot, people stop believing in them. And they become weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. And eventually people are like, that's not my god. He gets his ass beat constantly, right? And then they do die, right? Then they go away. You're going to love this. I was looking into this hierarchy of maybe the old ones and the demigods and everything in between. I found this. There's an actual cult of Cthulhu. Did you know this?
I did know this, yeah.
Yeah, an actual cult of Cthulhu, all right? Cosmicism, right? Like, I was like, what in the world? I was reading this thing going, you got to be kidding me, right? So the cults, if people believe in something as being real, it makes it real. And in the book, The Call of Cthulhu, what keeps Cthulhu in reality, at least in our, let's say, close-ish reality, is the cult, who's always doing the work of belief, and the work of belief is what brings them back. And there is the official cult of Cthulhu.com. And I was reading the hell out of this going, OMG.
I mean, Cthulhu is, he's taken, we talked about it in the Cthulhu show, but he's taken a grip on the human mind, like the Temple of Set, formed by Michael Aquino, who worked with the actual American government and CIA and all kinds of stuff. Cthulhu's in that mythology. They believe in the crafting old ones in the Temple of Set, this break off of the Church of Satan. Like it's not that crazy, you know. I mean, the idea is crazy, but it's the idea that it's people believe in it is not far fetched. They definitely do. Influential people. I know we're running out of time, but I can stay on for another. If there's no calls behind me, I can stay on for.
Yeah, you're good. Stay right there. Mute up. We'll come right back to you. This is fascinating. This is right down your alley. We're here with Derek in Massachusetts, a Night Stalker. Hang tight. Look, we're talking about the death of gods, the eternal skirmish of the Pantheons. We got to the old ones. What the hell is going on? What do you believe about this? 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. We're here with Derek in Massachusetts, the Night Stalker. Don't go anywhere. More about Deicide, the death of gods, and we're getting to the old ones when we return. Be right back. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we're streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, D-Live, and Twitter, and we're broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. Tonight, we're taking your phone calls as we discuss the idea of deicide. That's right, the death of gods. Can you kill a god? How do you define a god? What about a regular god? What about a demigod? What about the primal gods? What about the old ones? We're thinking about it. We're talking about it. What do you know about this? Pantheons come and go geographically throughout time, through history. Well, do you think there's something to this? Meaning, maybe there's a cosmic war always at play. Maybe there's, well, this is just stories, Mike. Get over it. That's okay, too. Love to consider all the options. Love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. We'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. But we were talking about Cthulhu. Let's get back to Cthulhu, my friend. Let's go back to Derek in Massachusetts. Are you there, my friend? A Night Stalker.
I'm here. Back to Cthulhu, yeah.
Back to Cthulhu. All right, so this idea, right? Again, APOC asked in the chat, is there a Bible of Cthulhu? And yes, the official cult of Cthulhu has the Bible of Cthulhu. It's linked there. You can read it right on the website, and it says everything you need to ascend. What do you know about this cult, my friend? So before you do, actually, real quick, so the interesting part about this to me, I was like, okay, so in the original, the book, The Call of Cthulhu, the idea is that there's a cult, sort of a mystery school that's behind this idea of really culminating the thought form of Cthulhu itself. Not that they actually sort of spawned it into existence. It always existed, but the cult is sort of behind the scenes, always doing these, let's say, esoteric rituals and things like this to wake up Cthulhu and bring it back into our reality, right? Something to this effect. So what do you know about this official cult and Cthulhu itself and all the rest? What's up, my friend? Welcome back.
I'm not. I think you brought up the cult in the Lovecraft episode. I'm not sure about the actual cult, other than like, I think they're just try to be as close to the actual Cthulhu book as they possibly can, right? If I understand correctly, they just try to like treat it as if it's literal, basically. And that's kind of what the Temple of Set thing is. It's like Michael Aquino was with Anton LaVey in the Church of Satan, but like LaVey thinks that Satan's like an idea, basically. He doesn't think it's like an actual beast that lives in hell. And Aquino's like, no, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. And they also incorporate the Council of Nine. That's like their governing body in Temple of Set, and they also believe in the Lovecraftian mythos. So he thinks that Cthulhu is like a real thing. And that's not a spoiler for Doctor Strange or anything, but like in the Marvel mythos, Cthon, which is kind of their Cthulhu, there's this elder god who wrote the Darkhold as a way to have a grip on our reality. And it's like some kind of conduit that connects him, like he's known as like the sleeping one, kind of the same way Cthulhu is. He's like kind of slumbering underneath reality or whatever, or Kronos trapped in Tartarus with the Titans, yada yada yada. Some older pantheon, some older things, some like primordial forces that were cast out by either a younger pantheon, like in the case of the Greek gods and stuff, or by humanity in the case of like countless different fantasies, all kinds of stuff. But they're trying to get back in. They have these different vessels and conduits to do it. So like a cult would be one, or like writing the Darkhold or the Necronomicon, which is like what the Darkhold is based off of, as ways for them to have a grip in our world, so that eventually to be birthed back in. Like we are the Stargate for them to enter our reality. I don't know. It's a crazy concept, but like it is kind of perspective. You know, it's there's different tiers, kind of where are you sitting on the god tree. Is kind of how you view the gods, you know. So if there was some type of super advanced, like at one point in Avengers Endgame or Infinity War, Thanos is like talking about how he's going to be a god, and Loki saying, "You will never be a god," as if like Loki's an actual god. But in the Marvel universe, Loki is an alien. You know what I mean? So he's talking to an alien, saying that that thinks he's a god, talking to another alien about how he's never going to be a god. So like, what does a god mean to them? Is it like, and they're also not immortal. They just live a really, really long time, but they eventually die. So I don't know. And then but in the Marvel universe, they have a similar thing. Like in the comics, they have a thing where this is like the 7th version of reality, like the entire multiverse of universes are like dying and being rebirthed, and there's these like primordial forces, like the Infinity Stones are birthed after the universe is created, but there's these like primal forces that go from universe to universe. They like that are above, like the one above all, and like the Beyonder and stuff like that. Like huge, like big time, like ever existing forces that exist even when the universe is not in existence. Like what is that level of God, you know? And then to the point of like, as we were saying, to aliens, to ants, to insects, to animals, are we gods? To the bacteria on our body, are we gods? Like, the idea that we're living in the universe is inside the mind of God. Like the universe looks like the neural pathways and that whole idea. What's that God like? Like inside, this whole thing is just inside the mind of something. What is that like? It really just depends on which level of the God elevator you want to get out on, you know? I'm rambling too much, just cut me off whenever.
No, you're good. That's a good way to put it. So we got calls behind you, so we got to dip. But also,
I'll take off. Yeah.
Yeah, this is right down your alley. So if you got more men, jump in the third hour, pretty please, because this is literally like the idea of the death of gods, that like hierarchies of God. And I love the thought of depends on which level of elevator you want to get off when we're talking about God.
Real quick, big shout out to Matt for the book and everything. That's huge. And Big Y just hopped in the chat too. So if he wants to call in and talk about the whole Devourer of the Gods idea, I definitely encourage that. But awesome show, Mike. Great stuff.
I appreciate it. Awesome stuff from you as always. Derek here, a good friend of mine, the Night Stalker. Derek in Massachusetts. Check it out. He's got a YouTube channel. Links in the description down below. Follow the man. Brilliant dude. Come back, man. Love to hear from you in just a few minutes, okay? Appreciate it, brother. There we go. 702-957-1037. We're talking about the death of gods. The eternal skirmish of the Pantheons. What happens when you stop believing in, let's say, Set, or let's say Apophis, or name him, Thor. Again, let's say hundreds of years ago they stopped believing in Thor as a deity, right? It sort of left the minds of mankind, right? The minds of our species. It just left. What happens to Thor himself, the thunder god of the Norse, right? What happens? Does he just fade away? Well, now he's back because he's in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and we're talking about these gods. So you got to wonder if this idea of them coming back into our mind's eye is awakening some things that maybe have been asleep for quite a long time. Love to hear your thoughts at 702-957-1037. Let's go to Joe in Florida. Thanks for being patient, my friend. You're on Troubled Minds. Go right ahead.
Good evening. Gorr is showing up right now. Got a little storm coming through here on the peninsula of Florida. So there's some thunder, and I got some rain coming. So that's the God of Thunder. But great subject. Great calls. I don't know so much, I should say, the idea of God, or if I had to pick somebody, maybe try to be Christ-like or like Buddha. But deities, demigods, I think that's all great. Dungeons and Dragons, yes, you could kill, I guess, the demigods and everything. But what came to mind, aside from Stargate, which I've already seen, and they're playing it on a TV show 24 hours, but has anybody watched The Expanse? In The Expanse, and it kind of reminds me of what Derek says with Cthulhu. Basically, in The Expanse, we're here, there's Mars is populated, and the belt is populated, and we find something called a proto-molecule. And basically this molecule learns, behaves, and adapts. Kind of borrows from Stargate. I believe the idea of The Expanse was originally from a role-playing game, and two guys wrote these books, and it ended up being a TV show. But this proto-molecule ends up building a gate, basically out in space. And we're finally able to traverse into space. But every time we go through the gates, we disturb something. And in the show, they call it the Unknown Aggressors. And the last episode of the season, whether I give it away or not, these Unknown Aggressors start to show up. And they kind of remind me of Cthulhu, but they're red. You see like these red, not that there's like tentacles, but like these red It almost looks like fire and flame coming out. And every time we use that gate, we upset what's there, which, in my mind, if there are gods, whatever that definition is, maybe they do live in another dimension. And in the Expanse, they are sleeping, is what it says. At the end of the TV show, this generally goes crazy. He basically says, I've got gods to kill, because they're starting to learn how to use this molecule. If you read the books, which I have not, but I've read the cliff notes, in the books, there's this proto-molecule that's actually invented by living beings, not by gods, but by living beings. The proto-molecule learns and adapts and has a way to resurrect people. So some people die on this planet, and they get resurrected, and they're somewhere in between the living and the dead. I equate the proto-molecule to that black goo. The
black goo. So the proto-molecule in this case, the black goo, with Gore the God Butcher, he actually uses this thing called the all black, the first symbiote. So if we want to get into black goo, this is a holy crap. Like this is where they all came from, right? The all black, and that's why this individual, Gore the God Butcher in the Marvel comics, is so powerful, right? From he even had like a wonky leg and was messed up and like broken down from all the strife in his life and losing his entire family type stuff, right? But then he becomes powerful enough to kill gods because this ancient symbiote, the first symbiote, sort of adopts him as his thing, and he's like, all right, it's on, and he starts butchering gods. Wild stuff. Black goo, bro.
Well, let's take the black goo for a minute, and let's look at the extremophiles on the planet. There's things that survive, bacteria, things that survive in different environments. So let's just take it to a cosmic level and say that we all vibrate, whatever it is, we all put out a frequency. And maybe this frequency emanates throughout the universe at different frequencies, whatever it is. You can call it manifesting belief or just the most basic life form or energy. And maybe there is some kind of negative force out there, whether you want to call it dark matter, chaos theory versus order. We always talk about that. But let's say that this thing has to survive, and it learns to feed off of whatever living organisms are around here. And the black goo itself doesn't have any intelligence until humans start to believe or fantasize about the stars. And then when we believe, again, we discuss this, we give it power. And then things take shape. And maybe that, like the tulpa or a god, but maybe it originates out of the black goo. I don't know. Just a maybe juice thought. But one thing you should see, we've all talked about it, is American Gods. The last episode of the first season, which was really the only good season, there's different versions of Jesus. The guy that's the main character, he goes to like a party, and he sees like all these Jesuses, and basically he's told there's a different Jesus for every nationality that believes in Jesus. So there's like a Spanish Jesus, and there's like a white Jesus. There's different Jesuses. Yeah, it's pretty, it's pretty, the first season on its own was good, and then it started to go south. But Neil Gaiman, if I know it's been mentioned in the chat, Neil Gaiman has a special penchant or a gift to basically say, what's it like if a god had to live here? Maybe not a lot of people know, but that show Lucifer is loosely based on his book. Also, The Sandman is coming out. All of these things I've read. Anasazi boys, but Anasazi is like the spider god or the trickster god. And he wrote a book about Anasazi, just a book. But they all revolve around belief and exposure. And in the first season of American Gods, some of the gods are tempted to maybe not change their name, but to embrace the gods of technology, which are the new gods, which we have not talked about yet on the show.
I love it. I love it, man. You're I love the way your mind works. I love that you can lock it and unlock it and come talk to us about all the amazing stuff. MJ, I see you. Hang tight. We're going to get right to you. You got the rest of his show is all yours. Joe, so do you think in the end you can kill gods? Do you think this is possible?
I certainly think we can. I certainly think we have. I mean, there's a lyric to a song that just pops in my head, but don't put down your guns yet. If there really was a God here, he'd have raised a hand by now.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. So don't put down your guns. Yeah, exactly. That's from the Editors. There's a band called the Editors. Excellent song, but that lyric always sticks in my head. Don't put down your guns yet. If there was really a God here, he would have raised a hand by now. I mean, we've nuked each other. We've killed each other. If there are gods, then like in that cartoon in Marvel, then they're just all evil because nobody's put a hand up yet.
Right on. Amen, brother.
Maybe the only God. Nobody's stopped. But maybe the only God, and I'll let you go with this, is the clockmaker. He set the clock and he left.
There you go. There you go. We'll get to that too. I got some ideas on that as well. You're the best, Joe in Florida. God bless you and the fam. It says right here, you've called in 190 times to this show. I appreciate you very much. You're the best, brother. You're the best. Have a great night. Great take as always.
Have a good night, guys.
You too, man.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. There you go. This is how you make friends, right? 702-957-1037. Let's go straight to MJ. We're talking about Deicide, the death of gods. Go right ahead, my friend. The rest of the show is all yours.
I need more than that.
Okay, that's fine. We'll do more than that. Go right ahead.
Okay. Okay. I have my spirit board, and I've been experimenting on things because they would say if you say pray to Jesus Christ or Jesus Christ, the aliens won't bother you. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna try that. And so on my sessions on the board, I'll have a little say I go through. At the end of it, I'll say, the Christ in me greets the Christ in all of thee. And what I finally figured out was, this is my take on it, is the frequency that we're born into is the Christ frequency. The word Christ vibrates to the frequency, or the frequency vibrates to the name Christ. It's the lettering. It's a vibration. Now, we're all also born into the name Jesus for our vibration. Okay, so that's why we're all interconnected, because we're all in the same vibration of Jesus. We're all born into the frequency of Christ. So what I started finding out was, when I said that at the end of it's like a little prayer kind of thing, setting stuff up. Not quite. What I found out was, suddenly, I call on, somebody that I've talked to before. They can't come to the board now because I announced that. So I announced that, so I own the frequency that I live in is Christ frequency. In this modern day and time, because of our past 2 years, you're not allowed to go to church and pray to your God. That's a form of killing gods.
I was going to say,
you can't. The people didn't do it in their homes. They would go to a specific house or building to do that.
Indeed.
So that's been a killing of a god right there.
Real quick. Let me interrupt real quick.
I think it's the killing of an idea.
Yes. Let me interrupt real quick. Wait. So this is the thing. I was thinking about this tonight too, as I was trying to bake in like the final idea of the show as we get into this. And I'm like, okay, in esoteric terms, we're talking about, right, like, pantheons of gods fighting each other. Okay. But also what came to my mind as well is sort of this modern war on religion itself, right? Is this not sort of a societal thing to kill God? To literally kill God, not like the gods or the demigods or the pantheons, to kill God itself, whatever it is, right? Like I think you're onto something, and it is on my mind, and I'm glad you brought it up. Go right ahead. I interrupted you. Sorry about that.
Well, that's fine. But I find it's more of an idea or a belief of a god that kills it. You talked about this Gore guy. He may be physically fighting the gods in the movie for dramatic effects, but my feeling is it's more of a killing of God. It's like when you have another religion coming to the United States, whoever they are, and they set up their church and everything, people are annoyed. It's like, they're praying over there to their God, and we're told that gods, we all go back to one source, but we label the god a different name. Hawaii has 40 different gods on that island. 40 different gods that they pray to or do their little rituals to. 40. So what happens? All 40 gods die off, you know? So when you get to any of that, it's more of a vibrational name, and you put out the vibration of Thor. Let's take Thor and spell it backwards and call him Roth. Okay? Does he come in backwards, weak, and, you know, just stupid and can't do anything? Or you say Thor, then he's strong, he's got a hammer. How does that work? You say the word Roth, but you have the idea of Thor. It doesn't come out right because that vibrational name is backwards, so it's not going to work that way, because in our minds, you say Thor, you have a picture of what that person's supposed to look like. So to me, it's more of a vibrational thought, and a god coming in would handle a small group of people, okay? A small group of people, and they believe in, you know, Pantheons as the name of the god. And so you have a small village, maybe a few hundred people that believe in it, and so they have this god, the thunder, you know, things are happening every time we do something, this happens. Okay, but they created this energy, and it draws it down on them. Now, the Georgia Guidestones. What happens when, if and when, because it's possible we can change that outcome, but that outcome is true. We change the outcome because we become so conscious that we move it in a different direction. Did we just kill a god and make a new god, or did we just become gods ourselves on a larger level, and now we move into an intergalactic vibration or seeing other beings, because now we've moved away from the basic insecure thoughts of having a god around?
I love it, man, and I think there's a lot to this. Like I said, and there's so many different levels, because of course, just a definition of God to many people is like, whoa, WTF, let's slow down, right? But like Night Stalker said, and he's right. Like, what elevator level of God talk do you want to get off on, right? Because there's a lot, and then, well, maybe I think the replacement situation of modern society, and like I described as you were saying, is if we kill God, it's a sort of collective within us, right? And so the new God becomes technology. The new God becomes, right, a manifestation of our, let's say, humanity in, let's say, broken ways. Just to throw it out there like that. I don't know, man. Like it gets weird, doesn't it? You're welcome to stay. Of course, you know we got a third hour coming up. We got about 30 more seconds for you. Go ahead and if you can wrap it up, go right ahead. If not, we'll bring you back right after we get off the radio. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to have to wait because I got a few more things to go.
Okay, sure. That's fine. Okay, so here's the thing. Right? Like, you know me, I'm not the answers guy. I'm not here trying to like make anything and say that, look, I have this novel thought of whatever is going on. Go back and check the track record. It's not like that. It's just, let's talk about these things. It's interesting to me, so I hope that's interesting to you. We're here with MJ. We're going to get back to him in just a sec. I'm going to mute you. Be right back, my friend. Hang tight. Look, I don't know. God is in itself, the term itself is complicated, extremely complicated. But then you start to say killing God, I get it, right? If I turned you off, I'm sorry, it's not that. We're talking about all kinds of different stuff. As you know, right, if you're listening to us on the Fringe FM, stay tuned for Joe Roop Lighting the Void. If you're listening to us on any other platform, including the podcast feed, stay tuned for a third hour of Troubled Minds, right? Hey, I'm talking here. If you want to help the show, there's a number of ways to do that. You can sub up on Patreon, Rockfin directly. You can sub up on Twitch, troubledfans.com. You can find Troubled Minds merch. Showing off my black on black t-shirt, which is super sexy. Check it out. Go. You can support the show that way. If you don't want to spend money, I get it, or don't have the money to spend, spread the word. Listen to the podcast feed. It's as easy as that. All right, let's get the hell out of here. As we end, it goes like this: be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our troubled minds to yours, have a great night. All right, easy as that. Look, we're going to take a quick break. We're not going to do a full 2 minutes. I'm going to step away real quick. We got MJ on the phone. Going to go right back to him. Looking to hear your thoughts on this, all right? What about God? What about killing God? I know it's blasphemy. I know just uttering the mere words. I don't mean that. I don't mean your God. I mean the ancient gods. But what about the ancient gods before the ancient gods? Things get complicated. Like I said, like a Night Stalker said, what level elevator do you want to get off regarding God? It's complicated. Love to hear your thoughts. Still taking your calls. Third hour Troubled Minds, 702-957-1037. Gonna step away, grab myself another maybe juice. As you can tell, it's very low. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere, MJ. Give me like 30 seconds and we'll just jump right back to you. Be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way. Don't go anywhere. All right, let's frickin' do this. Troubled Minds. I'm Mike. We're here with MJ in Virginia. Going right back to him. Sorry to cut you off and make you wait. MJ, what's up, my brother? Welcome. Go right ahead.
Okay, great. Now, I want to do as quickly as possible.
Hey, take your time.
Talk about the Christ
frequency. Third hour. Take your time. Go right ahead. Take your time.
Okay. The Christ frequency. When people finally fully, openly acknowledge that they're within the Christ frequency, things change around you. You don't have the negativity around you because you own the frequency. You consciously accept the frequency that you're in. You consciously acknowledge it. So therefore, your negative, like I used to have demons on my board, just play havoc. Since I started doing it, I have nothing. And now I can't even call them in because now I have owned the Christ frequency. Okay, they don't even come around anymore. And at one point it was kind of fun, but I thought, okay. So when you own that, also out there with the extraterrestrials, things going on, you have now announced your frequency. So now they know who you are and where you come from. They may always know it, but now you're saying it. So now it's sort of like with speaking another language to a person, you live next to, and you're friendly and everything, but once you speak their language, they feel better because you speak their language. It's the same thing with frequencies. You can go from one frequency to another, but when you get into that frequency, that's a change, and you have to know the knowledge or the language of that other frequency, okay? But it's in your body knowing it, and in your mind, but it's the same concept of being someplace else, and also being able to communicate and share, but also, I guess, the dialect of that frequency and being able to speak it, some people feel more comfortable about it, or the frequency of the beings more comfortable about it. Georgia Guidestones. We have several tests we're going through right now, and that's with us being cowed down or cowered down by governments all over the world. You have an instance, Nostradamus predicted a guy from the Middle East would rise with a blue turban. That Obama was in office, his second term, 2 months into his second term, he was shown a blue turban. And he was being, not so much wearing the blue turban, but offering the rising from the east to pull the planet back together because everything's in such a disarray. I don't know that that's going to happen anymore. Because of the awareness people are starting to get. They're starting to fight a little bit. Georgia Guidestones. That's going to be like the final test because that is a possibility. Right now it's a strong possibility. The more aware we come of just things in general, it'll help spread the awareness. That's kind of like the final test. When we get through that, because that whoever is going to be governing that is going to put the wool over our eyes and try to pull us down, and we're even going to have to go to the point of awareness over top of that, realizing that's its lies and you're trying to control us. Once this happens, this is the weird thing. I was on my board tonight talking to a being, and this is exactly what we were talking about is what you have on your show tonight. So, and the final test of it is when we consciously get that, our Christ frequency on a mass level, we all live it, accept it, know it, and realize what that actually means. It's not Christ the God, it's Christ frequency, and we're all part of that. There is no God at that sense, and that may be a death of God. What that happens, and then we're going to rise up, and then the other beings or aliens are going to come forth and start announcing themselves Even at that point, we still have to be conscious of it, but we have a conscious enough that we're now accepted because we've owned or live consciously in our frequencies, okay, and vibrations. And at that point, but it's a mass conscious level all at once. Everybody reaches it.
Okay, so we're again, the concepts become blurry, right? And I think that's the best part about concepts is there's some ambiguity there, right? And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that like the way we frame language and talk about particular things, some people say God, some people don't. You're talking about like a sort of a Christ frequency, right? In those terms, right? I love it. I love that there's so much sort of encompassing all of this discussion. And we talked about Marvel Comics and killing gods, right? And so to me, this is one of those things that makes this sort of a space that we've created here beautiful, is we're able to say, hey, look, it's not like you think it is. It may be, but it may not be. And you're on the ball as always, my man. Real quick question for you before we got calls behind you. We got to go, but like I said, no hurry because it's third hour. What about this? That Christ frequency you're talking about? Tom DeLonge and some others have suggested regarding alien abduction. If you reach out to that Christ frequency, they didn't use those terms, but if you call to Buddha or Jesus or whatever, you can run the aliens off. What do you know about that?
Well, that's what I'm just saying. That's what I've been experiencing. The abductions, unfortunately, still go on to a certain point because we're not conscious of the abductions, okay? They're not going to go, oh, they're praying to God. No, at that part, no. When you become conscious of it, you own it. It's like you have a conversation with someone face to face, and you're talking to them. You can read them a lot better. Your abductions aren't face to face. Okay, they're never face to face. They're always in the dark. You're out. You can't do it. So they have that ability to do that. So it's harder for us. If it were face to face, then you can feel the energy would flow through you. You can look directly at them, and that would be it. That would stop because it's done in the dark of night, or it's done in your sleep, or you're put out. You cannot combat that the way you would like to. So some of that still goes on. I still have it, even though it's going on. But I'm starting to realize that I have to be conscious in order to combat it so I can, face it. It's like you go to somebody and you're just angry. You're walking down the grocery store, and it's like people go, ooh, they sort of back off from you. They start to feel it. If you're unconscious, you can't put that energy out to stop it.
Right. There's that's a whole other show, that whole like unconscious, whatever that is, like where do we go when it's dark? Right. That's a whole other thing. You're the best, MJ. I appreciate you so much. Thanks for listening. Thanks for calling. Always a pleasure. And I'm glad you got some insight for us. Thanks again.
All right. Thanks.
You're the best, bro. Have a great night. There you go. MJ in Virginia, good friend of mine, good friend of Troubled Minds. And if you've been listening, you've been listening to him because he's got some takes, and I love him. Looking to hear your thoughts, guys. We're talking about Deicide, the death of gods. Not the heavy metal band. Shout out to Matt in California. We'll get to you in a sec. We got a call before you, Matt. Not talking about the heavy metal band. We're talking about Deicide means the death of gods, meaning can you kill a god, right? So it's complicated because, of course, how do you define a god, right? Again, Matt in Colorado did a great job to sort of trying to define those things. Derek popped in and kind of expanded the definition of that to be like, okay, we got gods. What about gods before gods? What about the elder gods? What about the universe itself? Is that a god? And again, right, like this is what I'm saying. So I'm not putting down religions and all the rest of this. Or belief. I think belief is important in things that we cannot perceive, because scientifically we cannot perceive let's just say it. We're in the third hour, a fuck ton of things. We just can't. And so yet, right? I'm not saying we'll ever achieve God level scientifically. I'm just saying that there are things we perceive as humans, conscious humans, that really do not ring true in a scientific fashion, and I think it's worth talking about. 702-957-1037, talking about the eternal skirmish of the Pantheons. What do you think about the death of gods, the definition of God itself, and let's say wherever you want to take it, open-ended, non-linear. Let's go to Mr. Mission Control. What's up, bro? Welcome to Troubled Minds. How are you tonight? Go right ahead.
Hey, Mike. How you guys doing?
Hey, okay, man. Hey, okay. What do you think, man? You got some ideas here.
Well, being a Cthulhu guy, as I call it, you know, I got my pen, got that Cthulhu pen on my hat and everything. I've studied, you know, metaphysics, you know my background pretty much, you know. So, dealing with frequencies, I like to say he's correct, but to figure out, like, the frequency of what you, like Jesus or Christ, the word, you run that through the gematrix.org, and you'll get the Hebrew enumeration for the breakdown of the word, and then you can go and check the Hebrew gematria, but that number you get for the Hebrew breakdown, it'll be like a 1,000, like usually a name like Christ or Jesus is three digits, or it's more digits than a simple to the English, and that's the one you'll run through. You'll plug that frequency, that number, into a tone generator for hertz, you know, and the bigger the words and phrases go through the generator, the larger the number in the Hebrew. The English is simple, have a smaller number because it breaks the numbers down further. But that right there, because Hebrew, you know, is basically just their depiction of frequency, and they read it out. And English is actually Hebrew backwards. Now, to properly read Hebrew and to decode the Bible properly, you have to go to this guy named Strictly Educational Magic on YouTube. Strictly Educational Magic. He's a Cajun guy, and he'll show you how to read. Just kind of, you have to just flow through it and read Hebrew. But anyway, that's how you do that. And then you'll be able to do the gematria a lot better into the Hebrew calculator. And then once you insert, like, your name and your birth date in there and save it in there, you're able to you affect the numerology. You're into the matrix itself. But that was meant to be, the gematria was made up way back then when the languages were made, right? But we didn't come up with the systems to implement it into our technology just recently. But that gematrix.org is the best one. Now, it's mainly got, you know, it involves all the deities' names in there, right? So we're dealing with archetypes here, guys. We're not dealing with like a rose bush or a tree or a car, you know, that'll dissolve with time or whatever, grow and die. These things are immortal. The gods are immortal whether they're known to be immortal or not, because once they're in society in the collective consciousness, dude, they manifest. Like, so how did Lovecraftian Cthulhu mythos come to be known as a official religion now? Okay, or magical practice.
I'll tell you how. So they interloped into the dreams of one H.P. Lovecraft, and he felt so compelled and horrified by their existence that he wrote about them, and here we are talking about them. That's how.
But we all as a collective had to experience that and remember. See, everything you do and you perceive is based on your mind remembering about something, and so all the colors that you see is based on, you know, the number of rods and stuff in your eyes, and then your mind remembers that color. If you've never seen something before, you can totally describe it as something totally different to somebody else that's never seen the same thing. Okay, so everything we see and experience is based on remembering. So we got people remembering past lives and all this stuff. But so when you read Lovecraft, you tap into that ether of the unconscious, the collective unconsciousness, and the collective consciousness is what's happening now. The collective unconsciousness is all the ether of the Akashic records and stuff. And then you get down into the subconscious where the elder gods dwell. And because those are the primordial, low, ultrasonic frequencies, the subsonic frequencies that are below 3 hertz and stuff. Okay, that pulse with like the planetary frequency we know as the Schumann resonance is 832 hertz, but the actual heartbeat of the planet is based on our rotation around the sun, and there's that frequency like every 365 days is a pulse, right? that click over into the next year or whatever, if we're going to measure it somehow like that. But the planets, these large objects, have ultra super low frequencies. We don't even notice them because they only pulse at a rate of once every, so many days or years or whatever. And we're dealing with frequencies that hertz, that are pulsing at, so many hundred times per second and stuff like that, or, whatever. So, then you get the terahertz, which our bodies emanate, not our mental brainwaves. Those are alpha, beta, delta. Those are mind frequencies. Now, our bodies emit, as humans, we emit frequency in a terahertz level, and they are now running experiments with terahertz. Now, Elon Musk said that his only problem, this was 6 years ago, his only problem with getting into everybody with his Skynet and everything is the bandwidth problem. Now we've gotten done with that, but now we've got to work into the terahertz because they went, oh, well, look at this. Now with the terahertz frequency, we can just tap right into your mind and we can control the population pretty much with the Starlink with their pumping terahertz frequency, dude. You got me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
So we feel the electromagnetics affect us. There was just a study out that said the microwave radiation does not cause cancer, but it causes mental effects that can lead to your body, becoming cancerous. So, like negative thoughts, the freezing of the water, the crystal people, that freeze the water halfway, and then they inject whatever thought or vibration into it, or set a color, shine a laser through it, and then freeze it and see what the crystals form. And some looks pretty and even, and negative and bad thoughts and stuff like that turn it all. Sometimes it turns the water black.
Yeah, interesting. Real quick, let me get in here. So interesting. You bring up terahertz. I rarely talk about it in terms of like you're describing. Today, more syncs. It's so weird. Today on the news show, before we did tonight's show, I do a news show on 3 p.m. Pacific time on Twitch, exclusively on Twitch. I was talking about terahertz technology. It's so fucking weird how this just. I don't know, man. Sometimes things are like, wait, what? How come all of this seems to like culminate in something? And here we are talking about something. Mr. Mission Control, you're the best, bro. I got 3 calls behind you, so we got to bounce. So what's your final thought on this? The death of gods? Is it possible, or is it like death-ish of gods-ish?
I think it would be possible, and it has been possible, and some of these religions have been replaced through like the Tartarian mud flood stuff and the reset, and how they've hidden. We find out that all this stuff is false, or is it another timeline we're experiencing that this stuff in, or what? But we know it's real because of these mud flood buildings. They're everywhere. And so, look at Ukraine. They're everywhere, dude. That was the major center. So to kill a god, you have to kill the archetype, which means you have to take all the historical evidence of it away. You have to wipe it in all the images and stuff off the internet, so nobody can ever see it again. So if nobody ever sees it again, it would not manifest itself.
Well,
somebody else made it up again.
Which is a weird thing about a war on religion and censorship on the internet. Do the math. Super weird. You're the best, bro. Mr. Mission Control has a YouTube channel.
It's cognitive dissonance. Like Yuri said, the Russians do to us. The cognitive dissonance about poisoning the minds of the youth with the video games, not necessarily technology, but the funness and the do nothing, and you feel like you're getting something out of video games. You're wasting fucking years of your life. And I wasted a lot playing video games, but I finally stopped, and now I'm focusing on other stuff. But
there you go. Same here.
I'm like, right now, guys, is not the time to play video games. You need to be taking in all this information that we're talking about here, and then back researching it. Don't go play Call of Duty, dude. No, because the monkeypox, the plague, the WHO is signing. They're signing our sovereignty away, dude. We won't. Because they're going to use the monkeypox as the next pandemic. As soon as they sign the paper, the preschooler parchment papers, right? 3 Schooler skin parchment papers are signed with blood and stuff, scratching their names on. When the last signature's done on the 28th, the 29th is the damn conjunction between Saturn and Jupiter. Guys, come on now.
All right. Hey, we got to cut. Hey, we got to cut. We got to
do something.
Hey, we got to cut. We got lots of people behind you. I give you a lot of time. Look, okay. Mr. Mission Control has a YouTube channel. Google it, Mr. Mission Control. Search it. Your search engine of choice. He's got a YouTube channel. I appreciate it, bro. Call back. You know where to find me. I appreciate your takes. Very good stuff. Have a great night. There you go. All right. 702-957-1037. Talking about Deicide, the death of gods, the eternal skirmish of the Pantheons. How do you kill a god? How do you define a god? How do you do everything in between? Let's go to Matt in California. What's up, bro? Welcome to Troubled Minds. Thanks for being patient. Test 1 2.
Hey, Mike. You snuck up on me.
Hey, Ninja. Hey, that's what I do, bro. I ninja sneak up on you. Boo! Matt in California. Go right ahead. What's up, bro? How are you?
It's cool to talk about gods and my thoughts and stuff. But first, talk about how to kill a god.
Yeah.
I think like gods that are like more of a thought form. But I like the idea of breaking down to be like a demigod. Like a demigod could die because it was Alexander the Great. His father was a god, and he dealt with, his part of his quest was he was trying to get immortality because he was scared he was going to die because he was half mortal, and he died young. So he was trying to accomplish as much as he could, but he wasn't quite a god. So there's stories of demigods that die. But I think if you're going to kill a god, you have to think about like how hard would that be? These gods, these fights they had, these wars, these battles between like Horus and Set.
Did you cut? I heard Horus and Set. Are you still there? Test 1 2. Test Horus and Set. Did I disconnect? Did Matt disconnect? Test 1 2. Anyway, there. I was while we figure this technical thing out. I think we're okay. Everything seems fine. Speed test. Everything's good over here. Looks like we're fine. Matt, if you cut out. All right. Look, just real quick too. I was reading my Dungeons and Dragons weirdness. Think about it, right? A mortal attack on a, let's say, quote, immortal being, right? So the immortal being has had eternity to this point to consider that, and even in some cases be able to maybe see the future, that know it's coming, right? Like, I mean, in those terms, right? Like, it seems ridiculous. It seems ridiculous, but, well, Matt, test 1 2. Are you there, buddy? Internet cut. If we can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Test 1 2. Matt, are you there? So by the way, you guys using Discord, there was a Discord update tonight. They don't update as much as they used to, but they used to update like several times a week. But before we started tonight, I noticed there was a Discord update. I updated Discord, so maybe if you didn't, that's what breaks things sometimes. So okay, so I can't hear you, Matt. Just maybe try and update Discord and come on back. Internet. Okay. I hear you now. All right. So I was talking, so I forgot what you were saying. Go ahead. Sorry. Test. Can you hear me?
Sorry. Yeah. And so I just think that the gods are one, like they're one energy, and just throughout all the time and throughout time and culture, we just kind of put different faces to them, and that's how we perceive them. So they're an energy, but not until they manifest as a physical form do we see what they look like. Each god might manifest to us differently. Are you following me?
Yeah, so then this becomes even more complicated, because we're not even talking about, it's more like what MJ was saying. It's not Christ per se, it's a Christ frequency. It's a God frequency, right? And again, I don't mean to be blasphemous on those terms. Please relax. It's not that. We're talking about like, hey, what does a God mean? How do you define a God? right? So is that what you're saying, Matt? In some terms, like the gods themselves, and this is why, if you go through the pantheons of history, why they have, let's say, similarities. Like, not just similarities. Basically, it's almost essentially the same entity. You just change the name and change the time, and it's the same shit, right?
Exactly. And that's why I think I do like the idea of, when we're talking about killing of a god, that if we forget them, or if we don't, see that energy, maybe that's how you.
Internet. Yeah.
I think that one guy's named Gore the God Butcher. Like, what a name, right? They just call him the God Killer.
Yeah, I agree. Butcher. I agree 100%. The God Butcher. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this movie. So I got to tell you, I saw Doctor Strange 2 with Mrs. Strange. We were in the theater, and it was great. I liked the movie. 8.5 out of 10. They had the preview for Thor: Love and Thunder, and I was like, "Nah, come on, what the fuck is this shit? Come on!" But if they had introduced Gore the God Butcher in that preview, I'd have been like, "Fucking right!" But they didn't. I was like, "This seems so stupid. What are we doing right now?" But then, well, now we got Gore the God Butcher. Actually, I don't think we can play it. I think if I pull it up on stream and play it, they'll hit us for copyright. But again, in 14 minutes, says Night Stalker, before the show aired tonight, they introduced Gore the God Butcher in the MCU. This is fucking nuts, man. I don't know. Are we tapped into something?
Yeah, it's in custody.
Yeah, right? I don't know, man. I don't know. Super crazy. What else you got for us, Matt?
Just real quick, want to tell a story I think goes with this.
Sure. About,
like, my beliefs and stuff. So there was this story where we were doing this, we go around the circle and we, like, hail our gods. Like, say, hail whatever god you want. We believe in multiple gods. So, like, hail whatever god you want to bring that energy into your life. And then you pour out your drink for the homies and you eat the food. And then you go around the circle and say your god. And it was, a nice day, nice kind of a fall day. Nice day, no clouds in the sky. And so going around the circle, and my dad was there. And he's not into this. He just is just there as, like, help. And then it comes around to him. He's like, "What do I do?" And I was like, "Just say Thor. Everybody knows Thor, the god of lightning and thunder. Like, just say him. Everybody knows him." And so my dad.
God damn it, Matt! Your internet. Say Thor. Say Thor. Say Thor. Somebody. God damn it, Matt! Are you there? Test 1 2. Normally, Matt's internet is, like, locked in, but tonight we got some problems. Matt, are you there?
Oh, you can't hear me?
No, you cut out. So you said say Thor, say Thor. Somebody, I think you were about to say my dad or my dad something. Go ahead.
Sorry, so I said to say Thor, and then my dad said he said hail Thor, poured out his drink, and then, like, a couple minutes later, all of a sudden these clouds came rolling in. And there was lightning and thunder, and it rained. And it rained out our party. Everybody had to leave. And ever since then, that story is told. They see my dad. They're like, "You're the guy that hailed Thor and rained out our party."
There you go. It's sort of like the modern day rain dance, right? That's so fucking nuts. That's crazy. But that happened. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Good stuff, man. What else you got?
That's gonna be all. I just think it's interesting that we're talking about it, and we keep talking about it. And I think it's important that we do talk about all the gods, not necessarily just one. I think we should talk about all the gods and all their stories, and tell their stories and see the similarities between them. And then you start to kind of see what I was saying, that they're just one energy, just different faces.
There you go.
But yeah.
Yeah, great stuff. If you look at the links I have tonight in the descriptions down below, I was reading a bunch on this type of stuff too, right? Like, so not just killing gods as in terms of like a martial killing of a god, but also like a god sacrificing themselves for people. There's like a Native American myth about a god sort of coming and giving corn to the Native Americans themselves, about wrestling and fasting, and it links to the inscription about fascinating stuff. I was reading about gods dying and the death of gods, right? That was what I was more fascinated with. But I'm with you, man. I think that in those terms, it's ish. As always, right? Everything's a little bit ish. You're the best, Matt. I appreciate you very much.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Mike. Good night.
Have a great one. Thanks for the call. 702-957-1037. That's Matt in California. Hey, he's the first troubled minder. I met the guy. We had dinner together, him and his wife. Shout out to Lacey if you're out there listening. What's up, Lacey and Matt? We had dinner. We ate Mexican food, and it was fantastic. And great stuff from Matt, as always. And what is your thought? We're talking about the death of gods, the eternal skirmish of the Pantheons here. What does it mean? Is it about... what is it about? I'm not going to I've been rambling, musing, making art, as my good friend APOC says. So I'll just shut my damn mouth now, and we'll welcome APOC to the show. APOC in Oklahoma. Welcome to Troubled Minds. Are you there? Test 1, 2.
Hey.
Good evening.
It's very cool that you said exactly that, because that's how I feel too.
Okay.
Making art.
Okay, well, here we are. Let's make some art. Let's make some art together. What do you think? The death of gods, right? It's very blasphemous, and it's, right, like a bold Michael Strange, right? Blasphemous rumors and all the rest of this. But what do you think regarding, all the things we talked about tonight? Do you think it is as blasphemous as it seems on its face?
No, I don't think any of this is blasphemous. I think everything is free reign, and we should explore it all. That's what I think.
Amen.
But I have several things. I think that the third hour has been very cool, because it's about sort of the unification of the gods in us, sort of. MJ brought it up, and Matt reiterated it, and it was actually why I was going to call too, in part. But I want to talk about one thing that MJ spoke on, and that's the Christ consciousness. So if you think about this, awakening and all this stuff that the metaphysicians have been sort of naming, like we're transitioning into the fifth dimension or the fourth dimension, and we're we're building this Christ, we're opening up to the Christ consciousness and stuff, which is really cool stuff. It is. But consider that maybe biblically, when they talked about Christ coming again, the second coming of Christ, that consciousness, that resonance, that frequency or vibration or transition or whatever is the second coming, right?
The age of Aquarius,
I've thought about
right?
this.
Yeah, the age of Aquarius. It all seems to sort of, it's a kind of stick in. It sticks in my craw a lot, because there's a lot of terms thrown about that are, and I don't want to say they're frivolous, because, but meaning that, if you're like a sort of playing bingo with new age terms, you know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of like, it makes people scratch their head and be like,
right.
So what are you actually saying here? What's going on? Right.
Yes.
So
yes,
to me, I do a little bit of that myself, right? Though this is Troubled Minds, and it's okay with me talking in terms of that. But we're like this thing, the other thing, all the things. It's it's sort of this subculture of, what would you call it? Let's say a subculture of, I don't know. I can't think of it like a good word to describe it, because if you malign it, you're an asshole. If you say it's like ascension, you're an asshole. I don't know, right? And I think that's a beautiful thing, not knowing. Hey, Puck.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, give me I'm going to put you on speakers 30 seconds. I'm hit the restroom. I'm listening to you. Give me go ahead. Monologue. Be right back.
Okay, then I'm going to jump to the, let's say, the Mesopotamian culture, because that was another topic I was going to talk about. The Mesopotamian culture actually led to the, I'm blanking, sorry, to the other culture, which I'll think of in just a minute, who actually came up with a lot of the stories that ended up in the Bible. The Mesopotamian culture created or had a lot of these gods, including the stories behind the Anunnaki and all this. And as you look through history, which I've been diving into a lot, like the ancient gods and the historical gods. So if you go back into those gods, you will see this sort of transitioning where the names of these gods and goddesses mutate. They change. All the names become different names and different names and different names. And so, but they stay somewhat the same, and they create different stories for them, but they're similar to the old stories. It's really interesting. But in like the Anunnaki Mesopotamian culture, one of the stories is when the gods decided to stay on the earth. Basically 600 went to the planet, 300 went to the sky around the planet. Don't know what that means. And then they continued and perpetuated here on the planet. Now, here's a maybe juice theory.
You're doing great. I'm here listening, by the way. Go ahead. Maybe juice theory.
Okay, cool. So here's a maybe juice theory. So what if those 600 gods and goddesses are literally us, and everyone else are either one of two choices: the NPCs or us in other bodies, and that explains reincarnation, and we are the gods.
Yeah, right. It goes back to what Derek was sort of describing as like the source, sort of that dark side of the moon, the prism, and the rest of that. Like it comes through somewhere, and we're that prism. And if the source itself, let's say it's a neutral. Let's get fancy and say it's a dualism situation, like a dualism of creation, like Philip K. Dick said, the actual the divine creator and the dark counterplayer, meaning that creation requires two, and of course for that the reason for that is because if you have one and only one, you don't have any checks and balances, cosmic checks and balances. That's a T-shirt, by the way.
Right.
But let's say that like that the prism is us, but the light that comes from the source is a dualism type of light. You know what I mean? Because if it was not, there would be no interpretation. It would be singular, and we would be like, the way is the way, and Thor is the Thor, or whatever, right? Whatever the things are the things, right? So anyway, there you go. Just to toss that into the mix,
yeah.
the concrete mix of troubled minds tonight. Why not, right?
Yes. And if you look at it, duality is actually just diversity, right? It's what splits things apart to where you can actually see the spectrum of light, the electromagnetic spectrum of light, right? You can see the light once it's spread apart. If it stays in a singular pattern, you have like a laser. You have a singular point. You don't have any spreading. You don't have any creation, like you were saying, which is, I love how you put that. It's very cool. But I did real quickly want to go back to the, metaphysical thing you were talking about. That, and as you know, I sort of grew up in that environment.
Hippies
and
nerds. Damn it, APOC, you're a nerd.
I'm a hippie nerd. I am definitely both of those things. But so thinking about it, if you take, you in what you had said before, I think that knowing the language of somebody is important. So I can go with the languages depending, and living in the Bible Belt, I had to learn the biblical language, right? I had to learn that language. Then I had to learn these other languages, and it's like a codex of languages. When you come down to it, you have to kind of know each one separately, right? In order to communicate well. And so I think, a lot of people have an idea that really resonates. They have a resonant idea that works, that makes sense, that feels right to them. And then what happens is they have to put a name to it. And that's part of language. We have to put a name to something. But the names that they attach are so definitive, right? They're so definitive. It's like they're so locked in to this like laser point, right? It doesn't leave much room to spread out, like we were talking. So, but once you know a language, then you can kind of have a conversation and spread it out a little bit, and that's what you do with your maybe juice. I just want to say that I think you, in doing this, really, from what I can see, helps people think in different ways, and I think that that's vital. I think it's important, by the way.
Thank you. Me too. Like, again, as you guys know, right, if you really know me, if you listen for any amount of time, like most of the stuff I talk about, I don't believe personally, but it's not about belief. Like I've said, and I think, like I said, shout out to James out there, James Salcedo Paranormal. Follow him, link in the description. Check him out. A good friend of mine, good dude, brilliant guy. Look, I didn't say it on his show, but I mentioned earlier, I don't believe in ghosts personally. But the universe doesn't give a shit what I believe. It's going to do what it does, right? So, like, belief in some sense is something, but belief in another sense is also nothing, right? It's that duality. Right. It's like, hey, like, it doesn't matter what Michael Strange believes. A lot of people listen, right? We got 300,000 downloads. Like, there's a lot of fucking people that listen to the show, not counting Fringe, not counting, like, literally, like, probably 500,000 when you count it all up, right? A lot of people have heard what I said, but it doesn't matter what I say, right? Unless I'm asking the right questions, and that's just the way I see it. It doesn't. To me, belief is it's crucial, it's vital, but also, by the way, it's irrelevant at the same time. And I think that's the duality of everything. It's like the yin and yang, right? There's like the dot in each, right? Because it's supposed to be. We're supposed to believe and also doubt, right? It's there. It's part of why we have these discussions. So don't. Once again, as you guys know, APOC knows. She knows me very, very, very well. APOC, you're the best. It's not about telling people the way things are. It's about asking questions and opening up conversations to maybe different ideas that they may not have had before. And that's what this has always been about. That's why we're here. That's why we do this. But yeah. Go right ahead. What else you got?
Amen. Okay. Well, I mean, think about belief, right? If I believe something, I always question it. If I actually believe something, I ask myself, how is it that I believe that? How is my body responding to that? How are my actions? How is my mind responding to that belief? And I look at things, more broadly so that I can, I like the truth in whatever way we can define what that is. I like getting closer to the core of sort of the calibration of what exists, I guess. And so if we can not lock something in, then we can literally keep it open to what fits, to what works within that spectrum. And I just wanted to say that real quick. But yeah, I did remember what the culture was in the Mesopotamian culture. Went to oh my gosh, I blanked again. That's so funny. Sumerian culture. Okay. Then the Sumerian culture is where the biblical stuff went. Anyway, but consider, what if we are all gods? What if we are all, awakening to this resonance? What if we are those pieces of the whole, including the possibility that we are and I mentioned this before on the show. If you don't mind if I go on for like one more minute.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So if you take if you create with a piece of glass and some lasers and a three-dimensional object, if you create a hologram in that glass where you can actually pull the glass off and you can see the three-dimensional object embedded within the glass, you crack that glass open and you have 5 different pieces, and each and every piece is going to have the essence, is going to have the whole of that image inside it. So instead of having one whole three-dimensional image, you have 5 whole three-dimensional images because you broke apart those pieces. That's another metaphor, Mike, for your light spectrum, spreading apart. But in that respect, we basically have the pattern for the entirety of everything within us, if you use the metaphor of the hologram, and if that is even close to the truth. So I just ask people to consider that. What if all of us contain everything within us on one certain level? And if you go back to my stuff, that would be connecting with the singularity. So, and the timeless space where all information exists. So anyway, that's it.
That's
I'm
it.
done.
That's all. Follow that. Hey, APOC here. Good friend of mine, a good friend of Troubled Minds. And by the way, APOC has a podcast. You want to check it out? It's called Apocalypse Tau. Links in the description down below. She's got a whole link tree. As always, brilliant stuff, APOC. You're the best. And by the way, like I always say, look, if you're like, hey, I'm tuned into Troubled Minds and I know what's about to happen, you're talking to APOC, you're talking to the Night Stalker, you're talking to Jennifer, you're talking to, right? Like you're talking to James, you're talking to the Robert, you're talking to myself. And guess what? Jay in New York, you can't, once you, Austin in Michigan, once you name everybody, you're going to leave somebody out. So I apologize if I left you out. There's so many people that contribute to these ideas because here we are, right? If you haven't joined the Discord, you're missing out. TroubledMinds.org. Click the Discord link, and more often than not, you'll find APOC hanging out with us. APOC, you're the best. I appreciate your takes, as always. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. And I know Daryl can follow because she's going to be freaking hilarious.
There you go, Daryl as well. There you go.
Thank you, guys.
I didn't know she was in here. Perfect. All right, so we got phone calls we're going to take. You're the best. You're the best. There you go. Follow Apocalypse Tau. Link in the description, please. That's APOC. Look, this is what I'm saying, right? Like for some bizarre ass serendipity, we've just attracted like an amazing amount of amazing people, and here we are talking about it. Let's go. We got phone calls. Let's rip through it. Matt in Colorado. You got like a minute because you called once, and I got calls behind you. Go right ahead, my friend.
I got like a minute.
1 minute. I got calls behind you. We got to go, bro.
Okay. Well, we're always gonna agree that the universe doesn't care about what you believe and what your beliefs are.
Okay, I love that, and that needs to be a T-shirt too. I don't mean to cut you off like that. I want to ask you, because you did call, we have people waiting. I want to ask you permission. Is it okay if we put that your link for your book and the promo code in the description of this podcast and everything? Is that okay?
Yep. You bet. That's what it's there for.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure it wasn't like an exclusive thing you wanted to pinch down to like a particular spot or anything. I appreciate it, man. You're the best. Anything else real quick while we got you on?
Nope, that's it.
You're the best, Matt in Colorado. Thanks for listening. Thanks for waiting for so long. Sorry to cut you out so short. We got Jennifer and Daryl behind you, and they've been waiting for a very long time. You're the best, bro. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow, 7 p.m. Pacific. More Troubled Minds tomorrow. Have a great night. Thanks for the call. Thanks for the book. I'm going to check it out. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link, TroubledMinds.org. Jennifer in Missouri. Welcome to Troubled Minds. Let's smash the button. Go right ahead. How are you? Thanks for being patient.
Hey, Mike. My internet kind of like crapped out, so whatever. It seems to be okay for the now.
I saw that. You dropped like 3 times. Go right ahead. Quick, yeah. Before it drops again.
Well, I went behind a wall. I don't know. It seems decent enough right now. But so Gore, and I've said this before about the Gore storyline, but what Gore in the comic storyline has to accept after the Thors, of which in that storyline in the comics there's more than one, is that in his vengeance against what he perceived to be the betrayal of the gods, he becomes a betraying god himself, who creates life in a false reality that only serves himself. The ending of the Gore storyline is sacrificing the gods to serve himself, which is why I think it's relevant in the real world just as much as in the Marvel Universe, that a lot of times these gods control nature and the world around us, the natural things we see, and that dictate sometimes a lot of our experiences. So you have like storms, water, death, fertility, etc. And we can sacrifice them, these gods, so we don't feel scared, which is typically why this is done and why all the ancient gods and everything have been demonized, because there's a fear about it. But seeking to be gods of our own surroundings, while we're doing this, trying to control our experience and fighting to become the very gods that we sacrifice and kill, and often sacrificing the people and the things we were so adamant initially that we wouldn't sacrifice to those previous gods. We do it ourselves when we become those gods, and we take on these new gods. And everything you look at today, what I mean by that is like everything in the modern world exists because someone or a group of someones killed a god and became that god that is now worshipped. And people when they talk about it, they want no religion. They don't want no religion. They want the religion that serves their purpose and serves their ideas and brings them fulfillment, often at the expense of others. And as is always the circumstance. So are we God killers? Yes, we are. We are God killers because we believe that we can replace them. So that is why we kill them, and or we have to watch helplessly, and these ancient gods do too, as these new gods fill the lands.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
I wanted to say, Leslie.
No, I'm with you. Real quick too. So let me interject. So I agree 100% in that. In the modern day, I think we're trying to kill all the gods because we're trying to replace them with the pantheon of science. And the pantheon of science means that we have these rulers that are humans, right? That say, oh, you trust the science. And I don't have to tell you beyond that what that means. Everybody can like pick that up on exactly what I'm trying to say here. Because of course, right, the scientific method, I guess in terms of objectivity would be its own god, right? It's like the counterpoint of the human subjective, right? It's like the scientific objective is like we're trying to have that duality, right? We're trying to be like, look, we feel this, but because we feel it doesn't mean it's real. So let's do some experiments and like verify if it's real, right? It's two things, and those two things are beautiful in conjunction. But if you kick one out and try and say, hey, this is the real thing and that's not the real thing, we got a problem, don't we?
Well, yeah, and there could always be that there is. You're absolutely right. And there always could be this idea that maybe there is something out there that does have an agenda that presents itself as loving humanity and wanting the best for humanity. But it may be that it just wants to wipe it out in a way. But, what APOC was saying, if you aren't here, if humanity isn't here, is the world still here? But I wanted to make a quote, though, from Nietzsche.
Do it.
Do you already have this quote?
Get it. Did you cut out? Oh,
God is dead, says Nietzsche, and God remains dead, and we have killed him. How shall we comfort ourselves, the murderers of all murderers? What was holiest and mightiest of all that the world has yet owned has bled to death under our knives. Who will wipe this blood off of us? What water is there for us to clean ourselves? What festivals of atonement? What sacred games shall we have to invent? is not the greatness of this deed too great for us? Must we ourselves not become gods simply to appear worthy of it? And that's exactly, what we have had to do since we have ourselves become Gore the God Butcher, is that we are saying that we ourselves, that we ourselves are gods. Anyway, it's very dark stuff. It's very interesting, and it happens all the time. It's been happening since the beginning of humanity. We took all the old gods and we made them demons. We called Odin Satan, simply a changing of letters with what Nas and all of this. Because it's amazing. It's an amazing topic, and I'm glad you brought it up, and it's going to be a good movie, I'm sure. Maybe. I hope. And we'll see how it goes.
I hope too. Cross your fingers. It seems like I haven't watched the trailer yet because apparently it dropped 14 minutes before we started tonight. Who's ahead of who here?
Nice.
So I'll go check it out.
I don't know.
Right?
Have a good night.
You too. Thanks for the call.
I'm going to listen in and hear the whole thing.
Do the best, Jennifer. Thank you so much for the call. Jennifer in Missouri has a YouTube channel. If you're not following, look, scroll down in the description and follow Jennifer ASAP. Look, I was talking to a friend of mine. He's another radio guy, and he's like, hey, by the way, I followed Jennifer. he's like that woman speaks some hot stuff. Now look. And she's not the only one. You roll back, you got APOC, you got everybody else that came before, right? Like, scroll down. Links in the description. Follow all these people. They're all literally down there intentionally because they help me on a nightly basis. And I can't thank you enough for all the amazing people that do that. But look, that's what this is about, right? The Night Stalker. You know who they are, right? Like, if I start naming people, the Robert. Where's the Robert been, by the way? There's a notable absence of the Robert tonight over on Rockfin. Hope Robert's okay. So Kay Farnan, what's up? Kay over on Rockfin says this, and this is an interesting thought. A few interesting thoughts. Was it Kelly in Colorado? Says Kelly says the 300 that went to the sky of AKA Mars. Then when they came back from Marduk's wedding, it was 200. Something about 200. The number 200, right? Okay, let's see. Let's scroll up. Hold on, making sure I get all the stuff in here. All right, and also look, Kay says this. Kay Farn says, "Light didn't create darkness." Kelly says same number as the Christian Bible is the fallen ones, 200. That's what that was. Okay, and so Kay Farnan says duality is darkness, and again, like I said, I'm not the arbiter of truth. I think I have to disagree. Naturally, it doesn't seem that way, right? It doesn't seem that way. We don't create ourselves from ourselves. That's a singularity, right? Like, we create ourselves from a dualistic... Anyway, fascinating stuff. This is why we talk about this stuff. And I said, look, this is by design, and the duality is projected by the one source, right? Not being obtuse, just trying to think about it. And Kay said that there is no duality created by the source. The light can't judge itself. That would be duality. I'm not sure about judgment. I don't know if the singularity, from my perspective, the source, whatever that happens to be, craves or cares about judgment. I don't think it gives a shit. I think it wants to... whatever that essence of being is, in my opinion, like I said, I'm not the arbiter of truth. Please don't take it that way. In my opinion is this. It infuses into us what we expect it to be, right? Meaning that we think in terms of people, and people as, like I said, I can't just like snap my fingers and spawn another me, right? There's a process. So there's a biological, natural process that comes with that, okay? We're bastardizing that, of course. We're turning that into test tubes and fake wombs and all kinds of shit, right? So maybe in those terms, maybe that's where we want to be. Maybe that's where we're supposed to be. Maybe that's what the evolution of the singularity wants us to be. That the source wants us to be. I don't know. I don't have those answers clearly and obviously. I'm just and I know. Look, when I say this, people in the chat get in the comments get so mad at me. They're like, "Stop saying that, Mike. Stop." No, I'm a knucklehead on the internet with a microphone. That's it. I'm not special. I'm not. Like I like to consider all kinds of things, but I'm not special on those terms. So there we go. Sorry, Daryl. Let's go to Daryl. I'm sorry, Daryl. Daryl in New York. As I'm rambling on and drinking some maybe juice. Welcome. Hey, what's up? Hey, Daryl. Don't leave me. that was fantastic, by the way. That was very nice. Daryl with the karaoke tonight. Go ahead. What's your thoughts on this? Deicide, the death of gods. What is all this about? Give us your thoughts.
Well, I'm going to just bounce off of Apocalypse and Jennifer. Basically, for what they were saying, I was like right on their wavelength when they were speaking. I was thinking about the purity of man, the purity of the food on this earth, the resonances, the vibrations, the planet. I think nature takes care of itself. Maybe we've been altered, but in more natural ways. Maybe we were hybrided with giants and, regular people. Then somehow we were, shrunk down to our size. But that was still a kind of a natural procession of mating. It wasn't exactly like, they didn't make genes into his test tube or, CRISPR technology or whatever. We were just kind of an organic kind of hybridization just by mating with different species or different races or whatever. And whatever we are, maybe is that how we became? I don't know. But I'm just saying, everything was on this planet was pure and delicious and good as is. And I think every time we start to, tweak something or change something or alter something, I think what we're doing now is like we're corrupting. Things are becoming corrupt. We're corrupting our regulatory committees. Our governments are corrupt. There's so much corruption going on that there's no more purity. I mean, there was once upon a time that our leaders were supposedly gods. And how good did that work out? How many decisions did they make that weren't really that godly? What about Latin as a language? Latin was once the language of scholars. It's the language of medicine. And suddenly that got, eliminated. Nobody speaks Latin anymore. It's not really taught anywhere. It became a dead language. And then I'm starting to think the mutations of our food, putting in, insecticides in our potatoes and, what are they doing to our food that's going to mutate us? What are they doing to us that's our DNA or RNA? How come they're manipulating that? Are we not going to be human or godlike anymore because we're just so altered? Once they start altering nature, is that killing God? Is that killing the God in us? I think it's I think corrupting or damaging nature is kind of killing God. And even altering reality, suddenly, doesn't shingles look like monkeypox? Are they just renaming stuff and we're going to forget that shingles was shingles and now we're going to be afraid of monkeypox? We're just changing reality by manipulating reality. And I think that's a way of killing God. I think God is in us and God is in nature. I think initially probably God was nature. We just looked at the thunder god, Thor's the thunder god and the rain god and the sun god and the moon god and water god. We had little wonderful, representations of what we were experiencing in nature. That's what was our gods. And I don't know, once we started splitting the atom and, we're starting to really mess with nature. We're killing our godlike features, and what's it going to be resulting in? Are we going to have humans after a while? It's really hard to recuperate a real potato or GMO corn now. It's it's been corrupted. And
it's so if we're talking tomato, potato, right? What's the fucking difference anymore?
Well, suddenly, you have a glyphosate growing into potatoes, so you don't have to spray them anymore. And then suddenly people are just going to get tumors like these rats, I mean, there are consequences to manipulating reality. And we have people playing God. We have people making believe they're God. They think they're God, but they're not God. And what is the damage that they've done to us, you know? How soon are we going to be able to even procreate based on the damages that have been done by manipulating our gods, our godlike qualities? You know, who died and made them God, you know? I think once you alter the reality or mutate, you're mutating so much. Are we mutating beyond our ability to be godlike, or humans, or potatoes, or whatever, you know? We can't even find, you know, where's the pure human anymore? How changes our DNA? Even like Apocalypse and I were discussing this, even parts of our body have already changed. Our DNA has changed. Our ribs are bigger. Our brain's in a different place. Our cerebral is in a different place. Like in our lifetime, we are already mutating. But when are we going to mutate ourselves out of existence? And then what happens to God? You know, when there's no more people around to have a God, then is God dead? You know, did we kill God by...
Yes. Hey, yes. See? And this is the thing. This is why I talk about this stuff, because there's so many layers to this. It's like a, you know, like in some terms, it's like a fun to think about God's like, you know, like picking up the Mjolnir or whatever, Mjolnir, and like smacking the hammer on the shield of, like, I don't know, Captain America or whatever, right? Like it's fun. But then also, right, like there's another level to this of like, hey, if the divinity is us and within us, defeating that means exactly what? And so in those terms, right, like it's I don't know if terrifying is the word, but I think that let's say compelling and enough for a conversation. How about that?
Really, I mean, even free will. Are we capable of free will? If they can control our minds based on frequencies and vibrations, how much of us are really left that are really humans? Do we have free will? Are we doing everything according to some other program? Are we programmed to be behaving the way we behave? Are people being programmed to behave crazy these days? I don't even know if they're people anymore. I just don't even recognize them. Some people, I just don't even see them as humans sometimes. The way they've lacked empathy, and they're so vicious, or people are just out of their minds. You know, what happened to their minds? Are they gone? Are they really people anymore? Have they been altered to be on the point of return? Can they be reverted? This is not reversible, you know. Once you start altering your DNA, are you going to remove our souls? You know, how programmed are we? I don't know. It's just disturbing, and I mean, good food for thought and good maybe juice. But I'm very, very concerned about the future of humanity. You know, I feel for everybody's children and grandchildren. I don't think they're going to be living in the world that we were growing up in. You know. I don't think we're going to give them an experience of being human, you know. They're going to be in a metaverse, or they're going to be, you know, eating these GMO products. They're not going to know the taste of a really delicious, you know, apple that turns brown when you leave it out. You know, their apples won't turn brown. They don't even know what a rotten apple looks like because they never saw one.
Exactly. It's like we got the old Newton and the apple hitting him on the head. Our apples that hit us on the head won't hit us on the head. They'll float down into our hand, and they'll never rot. They'll never.
Oh no, nothing goes bad ever. You know, your shelf life is 1,000 years. You know, everything is 1,000 years. You know, the half-life of everything is going to be. You know, things are never going to deteriorate. They're going to be impossible to you know, to dispose of. You can't even you know, recycle half of this stuff. It's just going to be on a pile of perfect apples and perfect corn, and we won't be able to eat it, but it'll look really pretty, you know.
Yeah. Hey, spirit cooking. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. Daryl, you're the best. Daryl, you're the best. Hey, we got calls behind you. We're overtime. Daryl here, a good friend of mine, good friend of the show. She does karaoke. Check it out. If you haven't joined the Discord, come check it out. She sang Radiohead tonight. Not just High and Dry. She sang Creep, which I missed. I'm sorry about that. Do it real quick for us, Daryl. Don't leave me.
Don't leave me high.
There it is. There it is. There it is. You're the best, Daryl. Give her a follow. Links in the description down below. She's got a YouTube channel. She sings in English and French, and of course has stuff on conspiracy stuff. She's got stuff on Morgellons and other things. Check it out, paranormal and whatnot. Daryl, you're the best. Thank you so much for just being you. Incredible stuff. I can't thank you enough. Let's go. We got more to do. Let's go to who am I missing? Tam Bam in South Africa. We're talking about Deicide. We're talking about the killing of gods, the eternal skirmish of Pantheons. What does this mean to you? Go right ahead, Tam Bam. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Hey, okay. I'm trying to order pizza and make this happen because they close it in 1 hour and 39 minutes. So I'm not rushing you. It just means Mrs. Strange got to go pick up the pizza 5 minutes away, or we'll have it delivered anyway. What's up? Exactly right. It's
okay.
always look. We were talking about this last night in the Discord. If you missed it, so like the joke was the reason why there's no Cthulhu here is because the ritual includes us abstaining from pizza. And the abstinence of pizza in the ritual to bring Cthulhu back is now culminating in that they say there's only 10 weeks of wheat left in the world because of the Ukraine war, which makes no fucking sense to me, but that was the joke last night. Welcome to Troubled Minds. What's your thought on the death of gods and whatnot? Go right ahead.
Okay, hold up. If you take pizza out of the earth permanently, it's like taking out the earthworm. The world will disintegrate.
I thought so.
Pizza is sustainable. For sustainable food.
See?
We need it.
So you're feeling it. Go right ahead.
Feeling it.
Good. I'm feeling it too. I want pizza right effing now. What about this death of gods? Do you think this is possible?
If you're running out of time, I'm really happy not to talk. You can go to someone else. I'm very happy.
No. I'm just I'm talking and
sure.
Yeah. I'm literally so if I'm like absent for a moment, I'm ordering pizza and so don't worry.
Yeah,
go right ahead. I'm not shitting you. It's like it's less than 5 minutes away. The place. We're fine. Go ahead. They close at midnight, which is an hour and 48 minutes. You're fine. I got tons of time. Go right ahead.
Okay. Well, I just want to go on what Darryl was saying about the food and all the crap that's in it. And I think we're humans right now. We're kind of like the GMOs of humans. This reality that we're living in right now, the 2020s. I really feel that we're so full of preservatives that we're not going to rot in our graves. We're going to be really nicely preserved. And for future study, about 500 years from now, they're going to be able to study us quite well because we're so preserved and full of crap. And then I was just thinking about everyone who's called in has such great comments, and so I'm just going to go over a bit of everybody. So they've also, the scientists have discovered that they've actually located the God sequence gene in our DNA. And they say that they can actually, they find the sequence gene of this God mentality, and they can remove it. I find that so baffling that they can actually remove that, and then you don't believe in a God anymore. You don't believe in the Creator. That for me is so horrific, because then you're going to just have NPCs walking around, have no purpose, no free will, no nothing, and they're going to be dead inside. That is the most strangest, bizarre thing that scientists could ever do to a human, is take that. It's kind of like removing their soul in the DNA sequence. And it was so horrific for me when I heard that. And then I thought of, I don't know how to explain this, but this is how I understand everything in terms of our reality and what was, and how gods have been influenced in our history, which, by the way, I think our history of old has been redacted, some deleted, and interpretation of old history has been warped. And it is not as what we think it is, because, Lily made great comment in the chat saying the interpretation of truth is not it's not the real truth. We can't interpret real truth into a common understanding and common language. And I thought that was quite profound. So how I look at it is, if you look at a tree, and a tree has this very in-depth root system and a very intricate, deep root system. And if you think about it, each root tangent, the big ones that branch off, is a frequency and a certain vibration of somewhere in a parallel, each parallel universes, every kind of consciousness you can possibly fathom, plus more. And in each of those thick branches is another tangent of a branch, and each of those has another little tangents spiraling off of them. And if we sit on the edge, as in Earth and our Milky Way, or our, let's say our universal 3D construct, if we sit on the one of the bottom tiniest threads of the root system, that is our consciousness. And that's our universe and how we perceive reality. Who's to say that other entities, whatever they may be, whatever level of consciousness they are, comes from another root system to infiltrate our reality and say, okay, well, here are stupid, idiot humans. We're more powerful and what they consider magical. You know, they're so vulnerable and easy to manipulate. Let's infiltrate their system and become a god to them. So we as humans say, okay, well, shit, they're magical. We're going to praise them and worship them and all these things. But what if that God who's infiltrated our reality is actually a reject from another universal construct of another root system of this tree of which we call connected consciousness? So we're serving.
Meaning we got the bad one, is what you mean.
Right. Well, the stupid one. Like we're worshipping the stupid idiot, a reject.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah, I know what
and
you
they
mean.
might have been booted off their reality. Excuse me.
No, you're good. You're locked in. No, I'm with you. So again, in cosmic terms, the stupid one, right? Just for lack of a better term here, would also be right amazing to us, but also it would still be the stupid cosmic one. It would still play. I like where you're going.
My point is,
Matt in California says Tam Bam equals fire. Tam Bam equals fire. Go right ahead.
Oh, okay. So my point is, we can talk about this till we're fucking bleeding from our eyeballs. Okay, it doesn't matter. It is all hearsay, perception, intuition from wherever. We could be piercing other realms of reality in other different consciousness, and they could be piercing ours or mentally, cognitively speaking to us. We will never really know the answer. And in actual fact, we don't know fucking anything. Because, like you said, what's happening today in our Earth reality is the pantheon of science. So what they're doing is taking away our feeling, our connection, and dropping our higher vibration to connect on a hierarchy, not a hierarchy, I'd say to connect on a higher vibrational level of collected consciousness and connected consciousness. They're taking that away. Science is not a fucking feeling. Science cannot be described as any kind of anything. It's just a construct. And this is the problem I have with it. I don't connect with you and all my friends online through construct or science. I connect with you on feeling. I connect with our vibrations. And this is a very big freaking problem. This is why technology can become a problem, because of the disconnect, the feeling, the vibration, the connection, and the empathy and understanding towards each other. There is a massive hate culture out there, and it's all because of the pantheon of science. And that's all I have to say.
Is that all?
Yeah.
No, I think, yeah. Hey, It's almost like you didn't find us by accident. It's almost like Tam Bam, you're the best. Tam Bam, I hate to cut you short, you're the best. Please follow Tam Bam. Look, she's actually like Tam Bam is going to be the influencer that takes troubled minds to the top. Scroll down in the description here. She's an influencer. Just follow Tam Bam here. Links in the description. She's got TikTok, Instagram, etc. So on. I'm just saying. Tam Bam. One day I'll be like, yeah, I know her. I know Tam Bam. We're boys, her and I. You'll see one day. You're the best. We got calls behind you. We got a jet. I'm still ordering pizza and doing a thing. Go ahead. Final thought.
That's it. I can't talk anymore.
Okay.
My mind will blow.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. There you go. I would read the phone number typically, but we got the backed up calls. Tam Bam, you're the best. Please follow her. Links in the description down below. Let's go to Rohan, the mighty Rohan. Speaking of links in the description, what's up? The famous Liam Martin. Go right ahead. What do you think about killing gods, my friend?
Hi, Mike. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear. Holy shit, you sound great. What's up, bro?
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, awesome. I've got set up. Yeah, I've only caught the back end of this because I only woke up a bit back. But I've made a few notes, if it's all right for me to just
go. Just go. Rip it.
Just go. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, so right. To talk about that, I think Daryl, I'm referring to Daryl and Tam Bam quotes because that's what I've sort of heard. But yeah, altering people. Right, and asking what's happened to the folk. Well, that's almost like it's in the zeitgeist now because I just had this very conversation with somebody yesterday where she said she'd gone out looking forward to having fun and having a drink, and she only had one drink, and only because it was free, and it was all like a bit deflating because everybody is looking like robots. Do you know what I mean? And we had this conversation about what's happened, just a bit like what Daryl was saying, and I'd concluded it's almost like we've been battered so much. It's like some people have blanked out. I think it's almost like shell shock, and I think that's what it is. Especially because I've experienced that a lot, that shell shock thing from trauma. Do you know what I mean? But I've had it so much, I can still think through it and work through it and look functional. Do you know what I'm saying? And I just think I've had a lot of stuff to be able to do that, and I just feel that everybody's battered psychologically. Okay, and I think all this is killing gods is a very great theme for it all, because the future of humanity is being dictated to us. People are lording it up over us as if they're gods. Okay, they're elevating certain aspects of society to godlike levels, even to in Britain, they replaced Bath Cathedral's Vatican flag with a medical symbol. Do you know what I'm saying? Now, if we're all supposed to be co-creators, and then science is showing us consciousness is all things aware consciousness, so yeah, we're co-creators. But we're trying to convince us that we're not, that we're baddies, that we're sinners, we've polluted the planet, we're all racists, right? Yeah, and the only way we can become enlightened from our weakness and sin is to merge with machines and have a false enlightenment that's going to be controlled by big tech. That's the way I'm seeing it. And then somebody mentions GMO humans. I've literally got bars about that because I've been seeing it. GMO mutants grow into the modern man, like ape sheeple, fake people, because they're hosted and raped our minds in every day, in every single way, because they hate people. It's hatred. It's the opposite of creation. Destruction, not even a judgment thing for me. It's the nature of duality. Yeah, do you know what I'm saying? And I think if there's these stupid old ones, and you've got these entities, okay, that have potentially got eons to figure out how to screw with us and manipulate us, well, guess what? They're not doing a very good job because we're still asking questions with limited resources and eyesight. So if that were the case, then, I just think they're not doing that great a job if we're still drinking maybe juice, or maybe it's more like trying to be humans is a really tall order. That's what I was thinking.
That's fair enough. And I don't know, right? So like, I think in those terms, like, who are we to question, right? Like the ancient ones, but also, by the way, hey, we're somebody, right? So like,
aren't we ancient ones?
Right?
Aren't we ancient?
Are we? That's a good question. Hey, yeah, maybe, right? Maybe that's us. Yeah.
Because if you think, if we're consciousness and co-creators, then we're as old as anything, right? I
would think. But again, right, so the second I say emphatically that's the truth, right, is the second everybody's like, I knew it! This motherfucker's trying to start a religion. So
it needs doxing.
Let's say maybe. Let's say maybe.
Exactly. Even I don't want to name names, but I've named them before. Even I noticed, it's just an observation, David Wilcock, after years and years, I noticed at some point he started saying, apparently that, it kind of covers your ass, you know what I'm saying? And it's easy to get excited and say things emphatically. I'm terrible for it. Sagittarians are so blunt and forceful and say things with such conviction, you know, it just can just sound true. You know, I don't know, I'm just saying stuff.
Get it, bro. Get it. Get it. Hey, I'm with you. And that's why we talk about this stuff, because I think it's, as you know, right, like, this is, it's complicated, isn't it? It's just complicated. Like the whole like reason of the conversation is because it's complicated. Because we're not afraid. We're not afraid of complicated. So many people are afraid of complicated. They don't want to be like, oh, consider all the things and this, that. And like, some will accuse me of that, but I'm like, hey, I've worked 4 years on a YouTube channel, and I'm not going to be so complicated that we get taken down. You understand? So I can only go so far, and you understand that, right? So, like, for my haters out there, they're like, oh, Mike, talk about this and that. No. No. You go 4 years on a YouTube channel, and then, like, spew it, get it banned, talking about, right.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah, and also as well, because this is a good thing to talk about, actually. We're talking conversations, we're having a conversation. You've pointed out to me potential talents and encouraged the podcast. So I can say that my mindset was starting that. I'm going to start that off kind of basic in a way, because I tried to start that thinking there's some people are brand new to this stuff. I don't want to, you know what I mean? You just want to hit people over the head, do you? I want to ease these things in, even if it's crazy talk. I'm going to say I know it's crazy talk, do you know? Because this is all hard work stuff. Do you know what I mean? And these, like I say, isn't it ironic that we have these conversations seeking answers? And like I say, some people don't want complex, and some people don't want sort of even more pressure in the mind. And so they don't want to go anywhere near it. But because you get then practice at it and get good at it, they feel small next to you. And so then you'll hear words like, you think you know everything. You think you've got all the answers. You know, you're arrogant. And you're like, if you actually listen to the show or actually pay attention to what I say, I'm actively seeking answers and actively saying, I don't know. And that's why I'm asking questions and talking to people, because I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? It's funny, and I think it's just because just a smoking gun. People have lost their minds, quote unquote, in some ways, and we all have, because we've just been battered too much, you know. And there's going to come a point. They keep telling us we're animals, and we do live in an animal body. Sooner or later, animals backed in a corner getting poked just think, screw this, and just do their own thing, don't they? And if it means biting someone on the way out. And I'm not saying we should, but I'm just saying that's just the nature of things. So I think it'll all just collapse under the weight of his own stupidness. I mean, come on, how can you, whatever's happening in Eastern Europe has no bearing whatsoever on the wheat production in Derby, Leicester and Nottingham. I can tell you that. I'm surrounded by farmland, and there's no Ukrainian soldiers burning wheat here. So how's my wheat crop being affected? It's not. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm growing wheat right now, so actually I'm adding to the world, aren't I? You know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
Hey, but if you're going to eat it all yourself, then, well, we got a problem. Stop eating so much. You useless, dirty eater.
See, this is how you're supposed to do it, Mike. I've mapped out enough area that should give me 5 kilograms of wheat once I've thrashed it out and processed it, and that should be enough for 1 loaf of bread a year. You know what I'm saying? That's enough. You know what I'm saying? It's how you got to do this stuff, and that's why I'm growing this stuff and getting excited about it, because my city's not that big, and we're surrounded by farmland, and our council is about to go broke. I know this. Everyone knows this. All the councils are going to go broke. Our country's about to collapse. So I'm saying, considering the Vikings liked this place because it's great for growing food, let's all talk about growing food. So when it goes bad, we'll be able to deal with it. No problem. You know what I mean? There'll be no Mad Max here.
Hey, Mad Max is what it's all about. Hey, are we not all Mad Max in those terms?
Well, I'm over max power kind of guy.
Yeah, totally. I don't know. I think that, as always, right, a lot to talk about, a lot to think about. What else you got for us, my friend?
It was just those great points, and like I say, that common understandings and truth bit. I just want to make this point just before we go. Common understandings and getting to a truth. Like I say, it's really, it is a profound thing. It is a hard thing to do, unless with the entheogens, synesthesia can be induced, where people have a shared psychedelic experience, and when you speak, the meaning of your speech, the thing you're meant to convey, can be seen as a 3D object. So then there's no debate on what it means, because we can all look at it, see the colours of it and the shape of it. And so the debate isn't whether or not it's there or whether or not it's justified. It's just as, oh, that was your meaning, and we're just discussing your meaning. We don't miscommunicate with that. So then I wonder, well, if the sacred plants have been used since the dawn of man, and it's only recent they were not using it, and if that allows us to have clear communication and, touching our spiritual stream, then maybe this is the very reason these things are banned and demonized so much, because they're trying to shut down our god powers, aren't they? Just a thought,
Hey, just a thought. Howdy, internet people. Just a thought. Hey, sometimes you gotta have just a thought, don't you? You're the best, bro. We got a call behind you too. We got to bounce. The mighty Rohan, the famous Liam Martin. He's got a podcast called Exiled Minds, which is coming back online very soon. Is it not?
Yeah.
Links in the description.
Yeah. I just got verified. In fact, I'm allowed to stream in about 28 minutes time, so I'm officially a streamer after that point. Test
that shit and let me know. And of course, I'm going to be on Jennifer's channel. I'm going to be on APOX. I'm going to be on Liam Martin's, the mighty Rohan. Look, we're
gonna have fun on that, Mike. That's gonna be so good.
I'm ready. I'm fucking ready. You know me. I'm ready. I'm not scared. You're the best, bro. Do the thing. Follow Rohan and everybody else in the thing down below. Let's go. Is Bailey still here? Bailey. Let's go to Monochrome. Bailey, what's up? Long time no talk. Welcome to Troubled Minds. How are you tonight? We're talking about killing gods. How do you feel about this? I'm sure you got some thoughts. Test 1 2.
Hello?
Bailey, are you there? I hear you. Are you there?
Hey, I was just here listening.
Oh, you didn't want to do the thing? All right.
Sorry. I thought if I didn't join caller queue, then...
That's fine.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. All right, cool. Just making sure. All right. We're about to finish anyway because I'm about to go get some pizza. All right. So, I don't know. It's just weird, right? Shit gets weird, and that's what this is all about. We talk about weird shit because this is Troubled Minds after all. This is the deal then. Anybody got let's say an outro for us? We usually call it a J-tro, but Jay's not here. Jay was in the chat earlier, but he doesn't do the thing. Anybody got an outro for us? Because I'm about to smash the button and get the fuck out of here.
I do.
Exactly. All right, there you go. See, I knew somebody would. All right, Tam Bam. Anything real quick before we do the outro, the Tamtro, as it were?
Well, I was thinking, if we lived back in a few hundred years ago, would we as a group be considered great thinkers?
No, we'd be burned at the stake. We'd be burned at the stake, Tam. Come on now.
You think?
Yeah, fucking right. No chance. They'd be like, these motherfuckers are invoking the devil on a nightly basis.
Cult.
Exactly. They're a cult. Yeah. It's not that. It's like, hey, look, let's consider all the things, right? It's different. It's fucking different. But again, right, if you have like a sort of a, let's say, and I get in the sense that you say duality is bad, right? Like I get that, because it's like, yeah, because like you're like, if we're this, they're that, right? And it's bad, and bad is bad. No, but it becomes, right, this is what I'm saying, it's not about that, and I don't mean that in those terms. I mean that duality can be good. It doesn't have to be like, well, we're this and they're that, and so go get that. Burn them at the stake, right? That's what I mean. You know what I mean? It's just like,
yeah, I know.
Yeah. So again, what's up, Samuel over on Rockin'? Hi from Australia. Hey, we got another Australian. What's up, Lily and Samuel from Australia? What's up? Lots of good thoughts, guys. And this is why we do this live. Like I said, I'm not perfect. I'm not like the perfect talk show host or anything, right? But also, if you listen to all these amazing people that like dip in here and tell us all their amazing thoughts, well, it makes me more like the perfect talk show host, right? So
yeah.
So thank you all for the amazing thoughts tonight. Tam Bam, let's do it.
Yeah.
Should I play the music?
Okay.
You got a thing? Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. All right, play the music. Let's get. All right, so this is the deal, right? The bad news is we're done. The good news is, God willing, we got tomorrow. Here's some music. I'm gonna put it. We got a Tamtro happening, right? And that means a Tam Bam outro. And there you go. Wait for the bass to drop. I'm Michael Strange. This is Troubled Minds. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cryptids, reptilians, androids, all the rest in between, I bring to you Tam Bam in South Africa.
To remain silent and indifferent is the greatest sin of all. Eli Wiesel.
There you go. You gotta talk. You gotta say the things. You're somebody, and somebody is not nobody. And the things you say are important because somebody out there also needs to hear them. It's called the collective subconscious. That's what this is all about. Thank you very much. I can't say thank you to all the folks who make this show go round, because I'll leave somebody out and make me look like a dickhead, and I do that way too often. So I'm gonna just say, look, each. Hey, I'm talking here. Each and every one of you, thank you so much for being part of this. And just thinking, like, unlatch your mind and think. Don't buy the bullshit CNN or the Fox News narrative. That's bullshit. I promise you that. Look, that's the only thing emphatically I'll ever tell you, is the propaganda sources are bullshit. That's it.
Yep.
Come talk.
Can I interject with that, Mike?
Yeah, go ahead. Right. Go right ahead.
And in all this fear-mongering and fear porn, remember the quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson: God will not have his work manifest through cowards.
There it is. Stand up. Be willing to use your own brain and weather the storm of, let's say, I'm gonna leave it there. You know exactly who I mean, right? Yeah. Anyway, so let's get the fuck out. All the fine folks, most of them anyway. Look, links in the description down below. Please follow all these amazing people. This show does not happen without all of these folks. Please, links in the description. Follow all these folks. When they drop new stuff, again, please come say hi. I'm going to be on as many of their podcasts and shows and YouTube channels as I can. I'm going to do the best I can because they do the best they can for me. All right? So they're, and for us collectively. There it is. Let's get the fuck out. If you want to help this show, it's easy. Few things. Let's back up. Hold on. Let's show the t-shirt off again. Black on Black Troubled Minds. Hey, buy it. Troubledfans.com. You can find all the t-shirts, all the hats, all the things there, stickers, and there's a patch now and all kinds of shit. Mouse pads, etc. Go get it. Sub up on, of course, what is it? Twitch, Patreon, Rockfin. If you don't want to spend money and you want to help the show spread the word, or listen to the podcast feed. The podcast feed is monetized. Let those ads roll. 418 shows on the podcast feed. I'm pretty sure I'm the only ones who's heard them all. Check it out. Thank you so much for being here. And as we finish, it goes exactly like this. Be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our troubled minds to yours. Have a great night. Have a great night. See, this is what happens when you start a thing. People start howling over your outro. Ow! Have a great one, guys. We'll see you in the chat. Look, go to troubledminds.org. Click the Discord link.